I never thought dropping out of college would lead me to a federal courtroom, watching my uncle's face drain of color as the prosecutor called my name. Deputy U.S. Marshal Bellini. The words echoed through the courtroom. My family sat frozen in the gallery, the same people who'd whispered, "She's just a college dropout," at every gathering for 3 years. But they didn't know about my secret life, the badge hidden beneath my blazer, or why I was really here today. 3 months before that courtroom moment, I found myself at another miserable Thanksgiving dinner at my grandmother's house. The aroma of turkey and stuffing filled the dining room, but the judgment in the air was even thicker. "So Roxanne's still working at that little mall store?" Uncle Marcus asked, carving the turkey with the same precision he used to dissect witness testimonies. His Armani suit probably cost more than I made in 6 months at my cover job. "Yes, Uncle Marcus. Retail keeps me busy," I replied, forcing a smile while passing the cranberry sauce. Such a shame. Aunt Patricia chimed in her diamond earrings, catching the light. "All that potential wasted. Remember when she was going to be a lawyer like you, Marcus?" My cousin Bradley shifted uncomfortably across from me. Marcus's son had always been the quieter one, overshadowed by his father's booming presence. His sister Ashley, however, had no such reservations. "At least I won't have to worry about job competition." Ashley laughed, fresh from Harvard Law. "Though I guess someone needs to fold clothes and work cash registers, right?" My mother Elena tried to deflect. "Roxanne is finding her own path. Not everyone needs to follow the same road." "Finding her path," Marcus scoffed. "She found the exit ramp from success and took it at full speed. 3 years, Elena. 3 years since she threw away her future." My father David remained silent, focusing intently on his mashed potatoes. His construction company had been struggling lately, and Marcus never missed an opportunity to remind us who the successful brother-in-law was. "Remember when we thought she'd be arguing cases by now?" Cousin Jessica added Northwestern MBA gleaming on her mental resume. "Instead, she's arguing with customers about return policies." The laughter around the table felt like needles under my skin. I excused myself to help my grandmother Rosa with dessert preparation. In the kitchen, she patted my hand with her weathered fingers. "Don't let them bother you, Mija," she said softly, her Italian accent still present after 60 years in Chicago. "Sometimes the crooked path leads to the most interesting destinations." If only she knew how crooked things really were. As I carried the pumpkin pie back to the dining room, I heard Marcus's phone buzz. He glanced at it, his expression shifting for just a moment before returning to his usual swagger. "Business never stops," he announced, standing. "Big case development. Need to make a quick call." He stepped onto the back porch, but through the window I could see his animated gestures. My trained eye caught the tension in his shoulders the way he kept glancing back at the house. When he thought no one was watching, I read his lips. The shipment, federal heat. My hand instinctively moved toward my purse where my U.S. Marshal badge sat concealed in a hidden pocket. For 3 years I'd endured their mockery, their disappointment, their condescension. They had no idea that Roxanne Bellini family failure was actually Deputy U.S. Marshal Bellini working deep undercover. Marcus returned, his composure restored, but something dark flickering behind his eyes. "Sorry about that. The Hartman pharmaceutical case needs attention. You know how it is protecting American businesses from regulatory overreach." "Such important work," Aunt Patricia gushed, "fighting for those poor pharmaceutical companies." "Someone has to," Marcus replied, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. "Government agencies always trying to interfere with legitimate business." The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I sat, a federal agent at his table while he ranted about government interference. But something else struck me about his call. The Hartman case was public record, a straightforward regulatory dispute. Nothing about it should involve shipments or federal heat. As pie was served, Marcus regaled us with stories of his legal victories, each tale more grandiose than the last. But I noticed something new, the way his hands trembled slightly when he thought no one was looking, how he kept checking his phone, the forced nature of his laughter. "You know, Roxanne," he said, suddenly fixing me with his courtroom stare. "If you ever want to get back on track, I could use someone to help with filing at the firm. Minimum wage, but it's a start. Better than retail." "That's generous of you," I replied carefully. "Family helps family," he said. But there was something predatory in his smile. Though I'd need someone I could trust. Someone who understands that what happens in a law firm stays in a law firm. Ashley rolled her eyes. "Dad, she can't even finish college. You really want her handling sensitive documents?" "Everyone deserves a second chance," Marcus said, still watching me, "even dropouts." The word hung in the air like a challenge. Around the table, my family nodded approvingly at his magnanimity, the successful lawyer offering charity to his failure of a niece. But I heard the underlying message, "Come work for me, where I can keep an eye on you." "I'll think about it," I said, meeting his gaze steadily. "You do that," he replied. "Offer won't stay open forever." As dinner concluded and we moved to the living room for coffee, I caught Marcus in hushed conversation with my father. Dad looked troubled, shaking his head at something Marcus was proposing. Marcus's hand landed heavy on Dad's shoulder, squeezing just a bit too hard to be friendly. "Think about your business, David," I heard Marcus murmur. "Construction's tough these days. My connections could help. All you need to do is store some materials for my client. Perfectly legal. Pharmaceutical supplies for their new facility." My blood ran cold. Whatever Marcus was involved in, he was trying to pull my father into it. Dad, desperate to save his struggling company, looked tempted. He glanced at my mother, at me weighing his options. "I need time to consider," Dad said finally. "Of course," Marcus replied smoothly. "Family doesn't pressure family, but opportunities like this don't come often." As the evening wound down and we prepared to leave, each family member made sure to get their final jabs in. Jessica hugged me with false warmth, whispering, "Maybe next year you'll have real news to share." Ashley air-kissed my cheeks while mentioning her upcoming engagement party, adding, "Small venue, you understand, mostly professional contacts." But it was Bradley who surprised me. As he helped me with my coat, he pressed something into my hand, a business card for a coffee shop downtown with a time written on the back, Tuesday 7 a.m. "Sometimes it's good to catch up," he said quietly, his eyes holding a message I couldn't quite read. "Away from all this." Marcus appeared behind his son, placing a possessive hand on Bradley's shoulder. "Making plans with our wayward cousin, careful Bradley. Failure can be contagious." Bradley flinched but managed a weak smile. "Just being polite, Dad." "Good," Marcus said, his grip tightening visibly. "Remember what we discussed about associations. Image matters in our profession." As we walked to our cars, my mother linked her arm through mine. "I'm proud of you," she whispered, "no matter what they say." If she only knew what I was really doing, would she still be proud? Or would she see me as the ultimate betrayer bringing down the family from within? I drove home through the Chicago streets, my mind racing. Marcus was dirty. Every instinct I'd developed in 3 years of investigation screamed it. The pharmaceutical case, the shipment, the federal heat trying to involve my father's construction business. All pieces of something larger. At my small apartment, I immediately logged into my secure system and began documenting everything. My handler, Senior Marshal Rodriguez, would want a full report. Marcus Torino, prestigious defense attorney, and my uncle had just become our primary suspect. But as I typed, I couldn't shake the image of my family gathered around that table, oblivious to the danger in their midst. They thought I was the failure, the disappointment, the cautionary tale they told their children. They had no idea I was the one thing standing between them and the darkness Marcus was bringing to our door. The irony was bitter. I'd dropped out of law school because I'd witnessed corruption, unable to stomach the professors taking bribes and fixing cases. My family saw it as weakness, as giving up when things got tough. They never knew I'd reported it to the authorities that my life had been threatened, that the U.S. Marshals had recruited me specifically because of my integrity and analytical skills. Now, 3 years later, I was about to bring down the very person who'd mocked me most. But at what cost? This wasn't just any criminal organization I was infiltrating. This was my blood, my history, my identity. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, "Stop digging or start digging graves." I stared at it, then deleted it and added the threat to my report. Someone knew I was more than just a retail worker. The question was who. I thought about Bradley's coffee shop card, about my father's temptation, about Marcus's predatory smile. Tuesday morning couldn't come fast enough. Whatever Bradley wanted to tell me away from his father's watchful eyes might be the key to understanding just how deep this conspiracy ran. As I prepared for bed, I placed my badge on the nightstand, running my finger over the eagle and shield. "She's just a college dropout," they'd said over and over until it became my identity in their eyes. Soon enough, they'd learn that sometimes dropouts become something far more dangerous to criminals, an undercover federal agent with a personal stake in justice. The game was shifting, and Marcus had no idea he'd just shown his hand to exactly the wrong person. Family helps family, he'd said. He was about to learn that sometimes helping family means stopping them before they destroy everything. Tuesday morning arrived with freezing November rain. I entered the coffee shop. Bradley had suggested a small place in Lincoln Park, far from any family haunts. He was already there, hunched in a corner booth, baseball cap pulled low. "Thanks for coming," he said as I slid in across from him. His usual designer confidence was gone, replaced by nervous energy. "Bradley, what's this about?" I asked, though I suspected I knew. "I need to know something first," he said, leaning forward. "That night at dinner, the way you watched my father during his phone call. You're not just working retail, are you?" I weighed my options. Bradley was taking a risk meeting me. Maybe it was time for calculated honesty. "What makes you think that I deflected?" "Because I've seen that look before, in federal buildings, in courtrooms." His voice dropped. "In the eyes of agents investigating my father." My pulse quickened, but I kept my expression neutral. That's quite a leap. "Is it?" Bradley pulled out his phone, showing me a photo. Security footage of me entering the federal building downtown, timestamp from 2 weeks ago. "I have a friend who works security there. Recognized you mentioned it casually. Said you went to the marshal's floor." The coffee shop suddenly felt very small. If Bradley knew, who else might? "Why are you showing me this?" I asked carefully. "Because I need help," he said, his voice cracking. "And I think you're the only family member who might actually be able to provide it." Before I could respond, he continued in a rush. "My father isn't who everyone thinks he is. The pharmaceutical cases, the shipping company representations, it's all a front. He's moving drugs Roxanne, actual drugs, using his law firm to coordinate shipments of illegal substances." I forced myself to look surprised. "Bradley, that's a serious accusation." "You think I don't know that?" His hands shook as he gripped his coffee cup. "You think I want to believe my father is a criminal, but I've seen things, heard things. And now?" He paused, swallowing hard. "Now he wants me to join the firm full time, to become part of it. Why don't you just say no?" Bradley's laugh was bitter. "You don't say no to Marcus Torino. Not when you're his son. Not when he has leverage." "What kind of leverage?" He looked around the coffee shop, then back at me. "I'm gay Roxanne. Have been my whole life. And somehow my father found out. He's made it clear that if I don't join his practice, if I don't follow his path, everyone will know. And not just that I'm gay, but the kind of twisted story he'll spin about it." The pain in his voice was raw. In our family, in Marcus's world of traditional Italian-American values mixed with cutthroat ambition, this would be devastating for Bradley. "He can't force you," I started, but Bradley cut me off. He showed me photos of me with my boyfriend, taken by a private investigator. He has recordings, documents, says he'll not only out me, but destroy anyone I've ever cared about. Tears gathered in his eyes. I can't let him hurt Thomas, or my mother. She doesn't know about any of this. I reached across the table, taking his hand. "Bradley, I need you to listen very carefully. You were right. I'm not just working retail. His eyes widened as I pulled out my badge, keeping it low and shielded from other patrons. Deputy U.S. Marshal Roxanne Bellini. I've been undercover for 3 years investigating organized crime with suspected family connections. Oh my God, he breathed. Does my father know? I don't think so, but someone does. I've been getting threats. Bradley's face went white. Roxanne, you don't understand. It's not just my father, it's bigger, so much bigger. Over the next hour, Bradley laid out what he knew. Marcus wasn't just defending pharmaceutical companies, he was using his connections to create a pipeline for illegal drugs, fentanyl primarily hidden in legitimate pharmaceutical shipments. The law firm provided cover, his client relationships provided transportation, and his legal knowledge kept them one step ahead of investigations. How long has this been going on? I asked, my mind racing. At least 10 years, maybe more. It started small, helping clients bend regulations. Then it became about hiding evidence of addictive properties. Then, he shrugged helplessly, then it became about actual drug trafficking. You have proof? Bradley nodded slowly. I've been collecting it for months. Documents, recordings, photos. I was going to go to the FBI, but then he found out about Thomas and everything changed. We can protect you, I said urgently. Both of you. Witness protection if necessary. You don't understand, Bradley said. It's not just him. Aunt Patricia is involved handling the money laundering through her charity foundations. Uncle Roberto uses his shipping company for transport. Even... He paused, looking sick. Even Grandma Rosa. She's not just making Sunday sauce in that restaurant kitchen. My world tilted. Sweet grandmother Rosa, who'd comforted me in the kitchen, who'd held my hand and offered wisdom. That's impossible. Is it? Think about it, Roxanne. How does an immigrant woman with no education build a successful restaurant that survived every economic downturn? Why do family meetings always happen in her back room? Why does she have more influence than anyone else, even over Marcus? The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Every family gathering, every celebration, every Sunday dinner. We'd been meeting in the headquarters of a criminal organization our entire lives. She's the matriarch, I whispered, not just of the family. Of everything, Bradley confirmed. Marcus might be the legal face, but Grandma Rosa is the brain. Has been since Grandpa died 35 years ago. I thought back to her words. Sometimes the crooked path leads to the most interesting destinations. Had she been testing me? Trying to see if I was corruptible? There's more, Bradley continued. Remember Professor Williams from law school? My blood ran cold. Professor Williams, who'd taken bribes to change grades and fix admissions, who'd threatened me when I'd tried to report him, who died in a car accident 2 weeks after I dropped out. That wasn't an accident, Bradley said quietly. I heard my father on the phone afterward. Professor Williams was going to make a deal with prosecutors implicate bigger fish, so they eliminated him. They killed him because of me. The room spun. They killed him because he was weak, Bradley corrected. But yes, your report started the chain reaction. Father was furious when you dropped out. Said you were supposed to be groomed for the family business that Grandma had plans for you. Your integrity ruined everything. I felt sick. For 3 years, I'd carried guilt about Professor Williams, wondering if my report had somehow led to his death. Now I knew it had just not in the way I'd imagined. Why are you telling me all this? I asked. Because I can't become him, Bradley said fiercely. I won't. I've watched him destroy people, families' lives, all while playing the successful lawyer, the family man. I won't let him destroy Thomas or me. The evidence you've collected, where is it? Safe, multiple locations, digital backups. He pulled out a flash drive. This is a sample, enough to start. But Roxanne, if we do this, if I help you, it has to be done right, airtight. Because if they suspect anything, they'll kill us both, I finished. If we're lucky. You don't know what they do to traitors, what Grandma Rosa considers appropriate for family who betrays family. I took the flash drive, feeling its weight despite its tiny size. We'll need to move carefully, build the case methodically. Can you keep playing along for now? I have to. Father expects me to start at the firm next month. If I refuse or delay, he'll get suspicious. Then we have a timeline. Bradley, I promise you we'll get through this. You and Thomas will be safe. He laughed bitterly. Safe, we're about to take down the Torino crime family. Our family. Safety is relative. As we prepared to leave, going separately to avoid suspicion, Bradley grabbed my arm. There's one more thing. Your father's construction company. They're already using it. What? Last month. 3 shipments of building materials that went to a warehouse Dad controls. Your father doesn't know what was really in those crates, but if this goes down, he'll be implicated unless we can prove his innocence. Rage flooded through me. They were setting up my father, the one truly good person in this mess, as a potential fall guy. Marcus had sat at our Thanksgiving table, offering help while already using Dad's company for drug smuggling. We'll protect him, I said firmly, whatever it takes. Bradley nodded, then surprised me by pulling me into a fierce hug. I'm glad it's you, he whispered. If anyone can stop them, it's the family disappointment they never saw coming. I left the coffee shop first, taking a circuitous route back to my apartment. The flash drive felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. 3 years of undercover work, and in one morning my cousin had provided more intel than I'd gathered in all that time. At my apartment, I immediately contacted Rodriguez through our secure channel. We need to meet. The situation has escalated dramatically. 2 hours later, in a secure federal facility, I laid out everything Bradley had revealed. Rodriguez, normally unflappable, looked stunned. Your entire family? He asked. Not all, I corrected. My parents are clean. Bradley's turning state's evidence, but the core family structure is compromised. This changes everything, Rodriguez said, studying the initial data from Bradley's flash drive. We're not looking at a simple drug trafficking case. This is a multi-generational organized crime family operating under everyone's noses. With a sweet grandmother as the godmother, I added bitterly. We'll need to bring in DEA, FBI, possibly ATF if there are weapons involved. Rodriguez continued already planning. This is going to be a joint task force operation. Sir, my father's company. We'll ensure he's protected, Rodriguez assured me. If he's been unwittingly used, we'll make that clear. But Roxanne, you understand what this means? You'll be testifying against your own family. Your grandmother, uncle, aunts, cousins. This will destroy the Torino name. The Torinos destroyed themselves, I said firmly, the moment they chose crime over legitimate success. Rodriguez studied me. When I recruited you 3 years ago after the law school incident, I saw potential, your analytical mind, your integrity, your determination. But I never imagined we'd be here. Neither did I admitted. I thought maybe Marcus was dirty, maybe a few others. Not this. Are you prepared for what comes next? The danger will be exponential once they realize we're closing in. And if they discover your identity or Bradley's cooperation, we're already dead, I finished. I know, but we don't have a choice. They're poisoning communities with fentanyl, destroying families, all while wearing the mask of respectability. Rodriguez nodded. Then we proceed, carefully, methodically. We'll need to place Bradley under protective surveillance without alerting Marcus. You'll need to maintain your cover more carefully than ever. One slip. There won't be any slips, I promised. But as I left the facility, the weight of what lay ahead pressed down on me. Sunday dinners at Grandma Rosa's would never be the same, because soon there wouldn't be any. The family that had mocked me for being a dropout was about to learn exactly what I'd become instead. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Your father is considering Marcus's business proposition. Please talk to him. I have a bad feeling. If she only knew how right her instincts were. I texted back, I'll come by tonight. We need to talk. The conversation with my parents would be delicate. I couldn't reveal my identity yet, but I had to stop Dad from getting deeper involvement with Marcus's operations. The construction company had already been used. We couldn't afford more complications. As I drove to my parents' house, I thought about the journey from disillusioned law student to federal agent. Everyone thought I'd given up when faced with corruption. Instead, I'd found my true calling. The family failure was about to become the family's reckoning. The Torino crime family had operated for decades, hidden behind law degrees, charity foundations, and Sunday dinners. They'd groomed children for crime while preaching family values. They'd murdered those who threatened their empire while attending church each week. But their biggest mistake was underestimating the dropout. They saw my leaving law school as weakness, never realizing I'd left to become something far more dangerous to their criminal empire, an honest cop with inside access to their deepest secrets. The real investigation was just beginning, and I had the perfect partners in Bradley and the federal government. Together, we'd dismantle the Torino empire piece by piece until nothing remained but justice. The construction site loomed dark against the Chicago skyline. At 2 a.m, my father's legitimate business was supposed to be empty, but intel from Bradley suggested otherwise. 3 trucks scheduled for tonight, Marshal Thompson whispered beside me. We were positioned on a neighboring rooftop surveillance equipment trained on the warehouse below. Your cousin says they're using your dad's site as a transfer point. I adjusted my night vision goggles, stomach churning. He doesn't know. My father would never... I believe you, Thompson said, but we need documentation to prove it. Below, headlights cut through the darkness. 3 unmarked trucks pulled into the construction site, bypassing the main gate through a section of fence that had been conveniently damaged. There, I pointed. Southwest corner, 2 guards. Thompson noted their positions while I photographed everything. The guards weren't construction workers. Their tactical movements screamed professional security. We watched as crews unloaded crates marked building supplies fragile. But the way they handled them, the security presence, the hour of operation, nothing about this was legitimate construction material. Can you make out the manifest? Thompson asked. I zoomed in with the camera, catching a clipboard in one guard's hand. Hartman Pharmaceutical. It's one of Marcus's clients. The plot thickens, Thompson muttered. Suddenly, my blood froze. A familiar figure emerged from the shadows, Marcus himself dressed in dark clothing instead of his usual designer suit. He supervised the unloading personally, occasionally checking his phone. What's a high-powered lawyer doing at a construction site at 2 a.m.? Thompson asked rhetorically. Marcus appeared agitated, gesticulating at the crew to work faster. Through the parabolic microphone, we caught fragments of conversation. Federal scrutiny. Change routes. The old woman wants answers. The old woman, Grandma Rosa. One of the guards suddenly looked up, scanning the surrounding buildings. Thompson and I ducked, hearts pounding. Had we been spotted? After 30 agonizing seconds, I risked another look. The guard had returned to his position, but Marcus was now on his phone, pacing. Tell her it's under control. The construction company is perfect cover. David doesn't suspect anything. Hearing my father's name in Marcus's mouth made my skin crawl. They were using his life's work, his reputation, as a shield for their crimes. The transfer took 45 minutes. Crates from the pharmaceutical trucks were loaded into construction vehicles, hidden among legitimate supplies. By the time they were done, anyone checking would see only a construction company's normal inventory. As the convoy prepared to leave, disaster struck. My phone, supposedly on silent, buzzed with an emergency alert, a flash flood warning for the area. The sound was minimal, but in the quiet night it carried. One guard's head snapped up, looking directly at our position. Movement on the Anderson building. Go, 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 Thompson hissed. We scrambled for the roof access door as shouts erupted below. Footsteps pounded up the emergency stairs as we raced down the main stairwell. We burst into the parking garage just as our pursuers entered the floor above. Thompson's car was parked strategically near the exit. We dove in, tires squealing as we escaped into the night. In the rearview mirror, I saw armed men emerging from the building, but we were already turning the corner. That was too close, Thompson said, hands steady on the wheel despite the adrenaline. But we got what we needed, I replied, checking the camera's memory card. Evidence of Marcus personally overseeing drug transfers through my father's property. They'll increase security now, maybe change locations. Maybe, but Marcus is arrogant. He thinks he's untouchable. I thought about the family dinners, the mockery. He won't abandon a perfect setup just because of one possible sighting. Back at the federal building, we uploaded everything to the secure servers. The images were damning. Marcus Torino, defense attorney to pharmaceutical companies, personally supervising midnight drug transfers. Rodriguez reviewed the footage with grim satisfaction. This connects him directly. No more hiding behind legal privilege. We need to warn my father, I said urgently. If they're setting him up as a fall guy— Not yet, Rodriguez cautioned. One word to your father and his reaction could tip off Marcus. We need more evidence first, need to map the entire network. I understood the logic but hated it. Every day my father remained ignorant was another day his company accumulated liability. The next evening I attended Ashley's engagement party, a small affair with 200 guests at the Drake Hotel. I played my role perfectly, the underdressed cousin in discount clothing, uncomfortable among the elite. Roxanne, Ashley air-kissed me with practiced insincerity. So glad you could make it. I know the ticket price was steep, but family is family. I'd paid the $500 suggested donation without blinking. The Marshal Service had a fund for operational expenses, but I let Ashley think I'd scraped together pennies. Your ring is beautiful, I offered, noting the massive diamond that probably cost more than most people's houses. 3 carats, she preened. James is a partner at Goldman Sachs. We like to do things properly. As she fluttered away to greet more important guests, I circulated playing the awkward relative while actually mapping the room. Marcus held court near the bar, Judge Harrison and Commissioner Davies, hanging on his every word. Both men Bradley had identified as being on the Torino payroll. I slipped toward the coat check, pretending to look for the bathroom. The attendant was busy with new arrivals, giving me seconds to plant listening devices in strategic coats. Marcus's cashmere overcoat, Patricia's fur stole Roberto's leather jacket. Lost, a voice asked behind me. I turned to find Bradley looking miserable in his tuxedo. Just trying to find the ladies' room. This way, he said loudly, then whispered, Dad's planning something big. All the key players are here tonight. He guided me past the bathrooms to a service corridor. In an hour, they're having a family meeting in the presidential suite. Grandma's orders. Can you get in? I have to. I'm being officially brought into the business tonight. His face was pale. Dad says it's time I learned the real family trade. Bradley, that's perfect. We need someone inside that meeting. Perfect. He laughed bitterly. I'm about to be inducted into a crime family at my sister's engagement party, while my boyfriend thinks I'm at a boring family event. I gripped his shoulders. You're saving lives. Every shipment we stop, every dealer we arrest, that's families who won't lose someone to fentanyl. He nodded, straightening his bow tie. The wire you gave me is in place. Just pray they don't sweep for bugs. Rosa's old school. She doesn't trust technology enough to fear it. We returned to the party separately. I endured another hour of condescension, Jessica regaling me with tales of her latest promotion, while I smiled and nodded. All the while, I watched the key players begin to drift away. Marcus, Patricia, Roberto, and a dozen others I now recognized as middle management in the Torino organization. At precisely 9 p.m., my phone buzzed. Bradley's wire was live. Through my earpiece, I heard chairs scraping glasses clinking. Then Rosa's voice, stronger than her grandmother persona would suggest. We have a problem, she began without preamble. Someone was watching the construction site last night. Marcus's voice, probably kids or homeless people, Mama. Kids don't have military-grade surveillance equipment, Rosa snapped. Roberto's men found lens caps from professional cameras. My blood chilled. We'd been more compromised than we thought. Federal agents? Patricia asked nervously. Most likely, which means someone talked. Someone in this room, in this family, is a rat. The silence was deafening. Through Bradley's wire, I could hear his elevated breathing. Now, Rosa continued, her voice deadly calm. I've run this family for 35 years. I've buried husband-son's enemies. But I've never had to bury a traitor from my own blood. Don't make me start now. Mama. Marcus said, we've all proven our loyalty. Maybe it's someone lower level, the drivers, the warehouse workers. No, this was targeted. They knew exactly when and where to look. A pause. Bradley. Yes, Grandma. His voice was steady, but I knew the fear he must be feeling. You're joining us tonight, taking your place. But first you'll prove your loyalty. There's a shipment tomorrow night. You'll personally oversee it. Any problems, any surprises, and I'll know where they came from. I understand, Bradley said. Good. Now business. The construction site is burned. We move operations to the Cicero warehouse. Patricia launder the last month's profits through the children's charity. The cancer one always tugs heartstrings. Roberto, your ships from Vancouver arrive Thursday. Make sure customs is handled. For the next hour, I listened to my family plan crimes like others plan vacations. Drug shipments, money laundering, bribery, and worse. When they discussed whether a problematic dock worker should have an accident, I had to bite my lip to keep from screaming. Finally, the meeting ended. Through Bradley's wire, I heard Rosa approach him. You're a smart boy, she said softly, like your cousin Roxanne was. Too smart sometimes. Don't make her mistake. What mistake was that, Grandma? Choosing law over family? She could have been my successor. Instead, she's folding shirts at Macy's. Rosa's voice hardened. But at least she's alive. If she'd gone to the authorities about that professor, if she'd pushed harder, well, accidents happen, even to family. The threat was clear. They'd killed Professor Williams partly as a warning to me. Stay quiet, stay away, stay alive. I choose family, Bradley said firmly. Always. Good boy. Now go back to your sister's party. Smile, dance, be normal. Tomorrow you begin real life. The wire went dead as Bradley removed it in a bathroom stall, flushing it as instructed. I remained at the party another hour playing my role, even as rage and fear battled inside me. As I prepared to leave, Marcus cornered me by the elevator. Roxanne, good to see you making an effort tonight. It's Ashley's big day, I managed. Indeed, family milestones matter. He studied me with those predator eyes. I heard you visited your father's construction site last week. Nostalgic My heart hammered, but I forced a laugh. Just dropping off lunch. Dad works too hard. Yes, he does. Tell me, have you noticed anyone unusual around the sites? We've had some security concerns. Unusual? I played dumb. Like what? Oh, people taking pictures, asking questions. Industrial espionage is real in construction. His smile was sharp. If you see anything, family should tell family, right? Of course, Uncle Marcus. Good girl. Oh, and that job offer stands. I could use someone with your attention to detail. The elevator arrived, saving me from responding. As the doors closed, I saw him watching me, calculation in his eyes. Did he suspect, or was he just naturally paranoid? Outside, Chicago's wind cut through my thin coat. I walked several blocks before hailing a taxi, then switched to the L, then walked again. Basic counter-surveillance, but necessary now. At my apartment, I found Marshall Thompson waiting. Bradley's wire picked up everything. We have enough for warrants. Not yet, I said. They're moving operations tomorrow. If we hit them now, we only get part of the network. But if Bradley can document the new warehouse, you're asking him to go deeper. The danger. I know. I slumped on my couch, exhausted. But we need the whole organization. Every player, every route, every connection. Otherwise, they'll just rebuild. Thompson nodded reluctantly. Rodriguez wants you to know we've put extra protection on your parents. Discreet surveillance. Just in case. They threaten me tonight. Indirectly, but the message was clear. They killed Williams partially as a warning to me. All the more reason to end this quickly. After Thompson left, I sat in my dark apartment processing everything. My family, my blood, was a cancer on this city. They pushed poison while preaching family values. They corrupted officials while attending charity galas. They threatened death while serving Sunday dinner. My phone buzzed. Bradley survived. They bought it. Tomorrow's shipment is huge. 50 million street value. Can't do this much longer. I typed back, "One more day, then we end this. Stay strong." But even as I sent it, I wondered if we'd all survive what was coming. The Torino crime family had lasted 3 generations by eliminating threats ruthlessly. Now their greatest threat was inside, wearing their blood, carrying their name. The family disappointment was about to become their destruction. But first we had to survive tomorrow night. The abandoned Peterson Industrial Complex sprawled across 30 acres of Chicago's southeast side. At 1 a.m., I crouched in the shadows of a rusted shipping container, watching my father's construction trucks roll through the gate. My heart ached seeing Bellini Construction, building Chicago's future, painted on their sides now twisted into service for the family's crimes. Marshall Thompson's voice crackled through my earpiece. "Perimeter team in position. Bradley's wire is live." Through night vision goggles, I tracked Bradley emerging from a black Escalade, flanked by Marcus's security team. Even from distance, his body language screamed discomfort as hardened criminals treated him like a boss's son. "Listen up," Marcus's enforcer Sal Dinetti barked at the assembled crew. "Mr. Torino's son is running point tonight. You show him the same respect you show his father." I switched to thermal imaging, counting bodies. 23 criminals, not including Bradley. Armed guards at every entrance rooftop, sentries, even boats patrolling the adjacent river. This wasn't just security, it was an army. Federal teams standing by Rodriguez's voice joined the channel. "Remember Bellini. We're gathering intelligence only, no heroics." Easy for him to say. He wasn't watching his family's legacy being perverted into a drug empire. Through Bradley's wire, I heard him trying to project authority. "Let's make this efficient. I want everything transferred within the hour." "Yes, sir, Mr. Torino," someone responded, and I caught the slight mockery in the tone. They saw him as playing dress-up in Daddy's world. The trucks backed up to a massive warehouse. As doors rolled open, forklifts emerged carrying pallets. In the glare of floodlights, I saw crates identical to those from 2 nights ago. Hartman Pharmaceutical stamped on every surface. "Thompson, you seeing this?" I whispered. "Roger, that's enough fentanyl to kill half of Chicago." But something felt wrong. The operation was too smooth, too organized. After our surveillance discovery, they should have been more paranoid, more careful. Bradley's voice came through again. "Sal, why are there extra trucks? The manifest shows 12, I count 15. "Your grandmother's orders," Sal replied. "Special delivery going out tonight. Above your clearance level, kid." "Above my—" Bradley's indignation was genuine. "My father said I was running this operation." "You're running the transfer. The special cargo is need to know." Through my scope, I watched 3 unmarked trucks pull away from the main group, heading toward a separate warehouse. No guards followed them. Whatever they carried, it was meant to be invisible. "I'm repositioning," I whispered, already moving. "Those trucks are off book." "Negative, Bellini," Rodriguez ordered. "Maintain surveillance on the main operation." But instinct overruled protocol. I'd learned to trust my gut over 3 years undercover. Slipping through shadows, I followed the mystery trucks to a smaller building near the river. The drivers exited, but instead of unloading cargo, they simply walked away. The trucks sat abandoned engines still running. "This is wrong," I muttered, approaching carefully. "Thompson, I need—" The explosion knocked me backward, heat searing past my face. The trucks erupted in synchronized detonations, fireballs climbing into the night sky. The warehouse behind them caught fire instantly. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard shouting from Bradley's wire. What was that? What's happening? Insurance fire, Sal laughed. Your grandma's cleaning house. Feds sniff around, they find nothing but ash. My vision cleared to reveal a hellscape. The burning warehouse contained something accelerant. The flames spread with unnatural speed, but movement inside caught my eye. Someone was trapped. Rodriguez, there's a person in that building. I reported, already running. Stand down, fire department is en route. But I saw the figure collapse near a window. No time. I wrapped my jacket around my face and kicked in a side door. Smoke billowed out, thick and toxic. Dropping low, I crawled toward where I'd seen movement. The heat was overwhelming. Debris rained from the ceiling as support beams groaned. Through the smoke, I found him. A security guard probably hired to watch the building without knowing its purpose. Unconscious, bleeding from a head wound. I dragged him toward the door muscles, screaming. A beam crashed behind us, showering sparks. The exit seemed miles away. My lungs burned, vision tunneling. Then hands grabbed us both, Thompson ignoring protocol to pull us to safety. We collapsed on muddy ground 50 feet from the inferno, gasping clean air. You idiotic, heroic fool! Thompson coughed even as he checked the guard's pulse. He's alive! Sirens wailed in the distance. Back at the main warehouse, chaos reigned. Through Bradley's wire, we heard Marcus screaming at Sal. You were supposed to wait for my signal. My son was almost in the blast radius. Your mother's orders supersede yours, Sal replied coldly. Maybe keep baby boy away from real work. I'll handle my mother. You just cost us a clean operation. But Rose's voice cut through, transmitted from speakerphone. Marcus, shut up. The warehouse was always meant to burn. Federal eyes were on it since 2 nights ago. My blood chilled. She'd known about our surveillance. Then why run the transfer? Marcus demanded. To see who would show up. To test loyalty. To send a message. Her voice hardened. Someone leaked our location. Someone in the family. The fire destroys evidence, but more importantly, it tells the rat we know they exist. You think it's someone here tonight? I think, Rosa said slowly, that it's convenient how Bradley pushed to be part of operations just as federal scrutiny increased, how my brilliant granddaughter dropped out of law school right before she could have been useful, how David's construction company became our perfect cover, almost like someone suggested it knowing it would protect him. The pieces were clicking together in her mind, forming a picture dangerously close to the truth. You're suggesting Roxanne? Marcus laughed. She's pathetic, works retail, can barely afford rent. Or that's what she wants us to think, Rosa mused. Tell me, when did you last verify her employment, check her apartment, follow her movements? Silence from Marcus. My cover built on family contempt and assumptions suddenly felt tissue thin. Mama. Patricia's voice joined the call. You're being paranoid. Roxanne's harmless. I saw her at Ashley's party, awkward as always. Harmless people don't survive what she survived, Rosa said. Professor Williams was going to kill her for reporting him, yet she walks away unscathed, drops out and disappears into minimum wage work. No ambition, no anger, no attempt at revenge. She was unraveling 3 years of careful construction with grandmother's intuition and a criminal's paranoia. What do you want us to do? Marcus asked. Bring her to me tomorrow, family dinner. Tell her it's important that I'm ill. Play on her emotions. And if she refuses, then we have our answer. Bradley, you still there? Yes, Grandma. Bradley managed voice steady despite everything. You did well tonight. Asking the right questions, showing backbone. Your father could learn from you. Thank you, Grandma. Come see me tomorrow before dinner. We'll discuss your future in the organization. The call ended. Through Bradley's wire, I heard him excuse himself to the bathroom where he promptly vomited. Did you hear all that? He whispered to the wire. Thompson and I were already moving, supporting the injured guard toward arriving paramedics. Fire crews battled the inferno, while police established a perimeter. In the chaos, we melted away. "Your cover's blown," Rodriguez said bluntly once we reached the federal building. "Rosa's suspicious enough to test you. You can't go to that dinner." "If I don't, she'll know for certain," I argued. "Running confirms her suspicions. Going might mean death." "She won't kill me at Sunday dinner, not without proof. Rosa's old school, family blood requires evidence before spilling." "That's a hell of a gamble," Thompson said, wincing as medics treated his smoke inhalation. "The whole operation's been a gamble." I turned to Rodriguez. "We're close. Bradley's on the inside. We have enough evidence for arrests, but we need the whole network. One dinner wearing a wire getting Rosa talking. It could seal everything." "Or you could disappear," Rodriguez countered. "These people killed a professor for threatening to talk. You think they'll hesitate with you?" "They killed him because he was weak outside the family. I'm blood. It's different." But even I heard the uncertainty in my voice. Family meant everything to Rosa, until it didn't, until loyalty trumped blood. My phone buzzed. "Marcus, Roxanne Grandma's not feeling well. She specifically asked for you at dinner tomorrow. Family should be together in difficult times." The trap baited with emotional manipulation. I typed back, "Of course. What time?" 3 p.m. Don't be late." Rodriguez sighed. "If you're doing this, we need contingencies. Full surveillance team. SWAT on standby. The moment anything goes sideways." "You move in," I agreed. "But carefully. My parents will be there. Innocent family members who still don't know the truth." "Speaking of which," Thompson interjected, "we need to brief your father soon. His company's been used in multiple felonies. Even unaware, he needs legal protection." "After tomorrow," I said. "Either we'll have Rosa admitting everything on tape, or, well, it won't matter what my father knows." The rest of the night blurred together. Equipment checks, wire tests, strategy sessions. Bradley reported in confirming he'd survived the evening, but warning that Sal Donetti was suspicious of him now, too. As dawn broke over Chicago, I stood at my apartment window, possibly for the last time. 3 years of hiding in plain sight, enduring mockery and disappointment, building a case that could destroy my own family. It all came down to Sunday dinner with a grandmother who might be planning my death. The girl who'd fled law school corruption was walking back into the devil's kitchen. But this time I carried a badge, a wire, and the weight of justice. Rosa Torino had built an empire on family loyalty and brutal efficiency. Tomorrow I'd test which one mattered more. The dropout granddaughter would either emerge with evidence to topple kingdoms or vanish like everyone else who'd threatened the family business. My phone rang. Mom. "Sweetheart, are you coming to dinner tomorrow?" Grandma specifically asked. "I'll be there, Mom." "Good. It's been too long since the whole family gathered. And honey, maybe wear something nice. Your grandmother mentioned wanting family photos." Family photos, or crime scene evidence. Tomorrow would tell. "I'll wear my best, Mom, promise." As I hung up, I touched my marshal's badge, then the small cross I'd worn since childhood. Tomorrow, I'd need all the protection I could get, legal and divine. The family disappointment was heading home, and hell was coming with her. Ashley's wedding planning brunch at the Peninsula Hotel was the last place I wanted to be, but refusing would have raised suspicions before tonight's dinner. I arrived in my nicest dress, still clearly department store, not designer, clutching a gift bag with a modestly priced place setting. Roxanne. Ashley's voice dripped false sweetness as she air-kissed me. "So thoughtful of you to come despite, well, everything." The ballroom overflowed with white flowers and Chicago's social elite. Ashley's bridesmaids clustered like expensive birds of paradise, while I found a seat at the family table's far end. "Don't you look comfortable?" Cousin Jessica observed her Hermes bag placed strategically to showcase the logo. "I suppose not everyone needs designer clothes to feel confident." I smiled blandly, activating the recording device hidden in my purse. If I was gathering evidence at my potential Last Supper, might as well start early. Patricia held court at the main table diamond tennis bracelet catching light as she gestured. The Torino Foundation just pledged $5 million to Children's Memorial. It's so important to give back. Give back what you stole through drug dealing, I thought, watching her preen. The children's charity Rosa had mentioned. Perfect money laundering wrapped in philanthropy. Roxanne, dear, Patricia called out, you should attend our next fundraiser. We could use volunteers to check coats. Laughter rippled through the room. The family failure relegated to servant status, even at charity events. I bobbed my head, gratefully playing my part. But my real focus was on the subtle dynamics. 2 tables over men I recognized from surveillance photos sat with their trophy wives. Sal Dinetti looking uncomfortable in his suit, Roberto's shipping executives, Judge Harrison's wife, the criminal network disguised as wedding guests. My phone vibrated. Bradley. Grandma moved our meeting to noon. She wants to prepare me before dinner. I'm scared. I typed back, recording, always. If something happens, check my cloud storage. Password is Thomas's birthday backwards. Nothing will happen. Stay strong. But my hands shook slightly as I set down the phone. Rosa was orchestrating something beyond a simple family dinner. Planning your next retail shift. Ashley appeared beside me, wedding binder in hand. I do hope you can get time off for the wedding, though I understand if work won't permit it. I'll be there, I assured her. Wonderful. Oh, I've been meaning to ask. Still living in that studio apartment, James and I just bought a 3-bedroom in Lincoln Park, pre-wedding gift to ourselves. Every barb was carefully calculated to remind me of my failure. Ashley had learned from Marcus. Words could wound as effectively as weapons. The brunch dragged on. Wedding dress discussions, honeymoon plans to Santorini registry items that cost more than my monthly salary. Through it all, I smiled and nodded the grateful poor relation aloud at the rich family's table. But I noticed things they didn't. How Sal Dinetti's men were positioned at exits. How Roberto kept checking his phone, worry creasing his forehead. How Patricia's charity co-chair was the wife of a known cartel lawyer. As guests began leaving, Patricia cornered me. Roxanne, a word. We stepped onto a balcony overlooking Michigan Avenue. Patricia's perfectly manicured nails drummed against the railing. I've been thinking about your situation, she began, voice honeyed with false concern. 28 years old, no career, no prospects. It must be difficult. I manage, I said carefully. But you shouldn't have to just manage. You're a Torino, even if diluted through your mother's side. She studied me with calculating eyes. I could help. The foundation needs someone to handle special projects. My pulse quickened. Was this a test from Rosa Ann recruitment attempt? What kind of projects? Oh, discreet ones. Moving funds between accounts, ensuring donations reach proper recipients, someone trustworthy who understands that family business stays in the family. She was offering me a money laundering position wrapped in charitable language. That's generous, Aunt Patricia, but I don't have accounting experience. Experience can be taught. Loyalty can't. Her voice hardened slightly. Your grandmother believes every family member should contribute, even the disappointing ones. There it was, Rosa's hand behind this offer, testing whether I'd take dirty money, whether I could be corrupted. I'll think about it, I said, buying time. Don't think too long. Opportunities pass quickly, and Roxanne... She gripped my arm nails, digging in slightly. Your grandmother is old-school Italian. She believes in family above all, but she also believes in consequences for those who forget their place. Understand? I understand. Patricia released me, smile returning. Wonderful, see you at dinner. Wear something appropriate. As she click-clacked away on designer heels, I rubbed my arm where her nails had left marks. The threats were escalating from subtle to explicit. Back home, I had 2 hours before dinner. I showered, washing away the morning's false sweetness, then carefully prepared. The wire Bradley had given me was state-of-the-art, virtually undetectable. I taped it in place, tested the frequency, then chose my clothes carefully. A modest dress that showed respect for Sunday dinner, loose enough to hide any recording equipment bulges. My phone rang. Mom. Honey, are you on your way? Your father and I are already here. Leaving soon, Mom. Good. Roxanne. She paused. Is everything all right? You've seemed distant lately. If only she knew. Everything's fine, just work stress. That retail job is wearing on you. Maybe you should consider Uncle Marcus's offer to work at his firm. Maybe I lied. Your grandmother seems anxious today. She keeps asking if everyone's coming, especially you. It's sweet how much she cares. Sweet. If Mom knew Rosa's real reason for wanting me there, she'd grab Dad and run. I'll see you soon, Mom. I holstered my service weapon, though it would have to stay in the car. Can't wear a gun to Grandma's Sunday dinner. Instead, I tucked a ceramic knife into my boot. Undetectable by metal detectors if they were that paranoid, but available if things went sideways. The drive to Rosa's restaurant felt like heading to an execution. Every red light offered a chance to turn back, call Rodriguez abort the mission. But Bradley was already there, risking everything. I couldn't abandon him. Rosa's restaurant occupied a corner building in the old neighborhood, unchanged for 40 years. Nona's kitchen, in faded gold letters windows clouded with steam from eternal pots of sauce. It looked like any other family Italian place, not the headquarters of a multi-million-dollar crime syndicate. I parked, noting the unusual number of cars. Not just family, extra security. Through the window, I glimpsed Mom and Dad at a corner table, Dad gesturing animatedly about something, while Mom nodded patiently. Phoenix is in the nest, I whispered to my wire using our code. Multiple unknowns present. Copy Thompson's voice in my earpiece. We have eyes on all exits. SWAT stage 2 blocks away. You say pepperoni pizza, and we come in hot. Pepperoni pizza, the safe word that would bring federal agents crashing through windows. Such an absurd phrase for such a deadly situation. I entered through the front doorbell, chiming my arrival. The familiar scent of garlic, basil, and tomato sauce washed over me, bringing childhood memories of safer times. Roxanne, Dad stood pulling me into a hug. You look thin, not eating enough. I'm fine, Dad. I hugged him back, memorizing the feeling in case it was the last time. Mom kissed my cheek. Everyone's in the back room. Your grandmother's holding court as usual. The back room. The private dining area where Rosa had run her empire for decades, where families celebrated and criminals plotted, where I might die today. We walked through the kitchen, past bubbling pots tended by cousins who wouldn't meet my eyes. Everyone felt the tension, even if they didn't understand it. The private room door stood open, revealing a scene from a Godfather movie. Rosa sat at the head of the long table, regal in black dress and pearls. Marcus flanked her right, Patricia her left. The entire criminal hierarchy arranged by rank with legitimate family members sprinkled between like camouflage. Roxanne. Rosa's voice carried surprising strength. Come sit by me. The seat of honor, or the defendant's chair. I kissed her weathered cheek, smelling her familiar perfume, mixed with something medicinal. You look tired, Nonna, I said, using the childhood name. 78 years is tired, she replied, but her dark eyes remained sharp. Still strong enough to see my family together. Bradley sat across from me. Suit impeccable, but stress visible in his rigid posture. He gave me the slightest nod. His wire was active. Before we eat, Rosa announced family business. The room fell silent. Servers, all family members, quickly exited. Sal Donetti positioned himself by the door. My parents looked confused at the formal atmosphere. We've been blessed. Rosa began, hands folded like a prayer. From nothing, we built something. From a small restaurant, we created an empire. Each of you plays a part. She gestured around the table. Marcus, my brilliant lawyer son. Patricia, who makes our money clean. Roberto, who brings goods across waters. All family, all loyal. Always Mama, Marcus affirmed. But empires face threats. External ones we handle. Internal ones. She paused dramatically. Internal threats break my heart. The temperature seemed to drop. Mom reached for Dad's hand under the table. "Someone in this room," Rosa continued, "has been talking to federal agents. Someone I trusted, I raised, I loved is trying to destroy us." Gasps around the table. Jessica dropped her wine glass, red spreading across white tablecloth like blood. "That's impossible," Patricia protested. "We're family." "Family," Rosa repeated bitterly. Such a beautiful word, such a painful betrayal when family forgets its meaning. Marcus leaned forward. "Mama, how can you be sure?" "Because I'm old, not stupid. The warehouse raid 2 nights ago, they knew exactly when and where. The construction site surveillance too precise for outsiders." Her gaze swept the table like a searchlight. Details only family would know. My heart hammered, but I kept my expression confused, concerned. Around me, family members protested their innocence, their loyalty, their shock at such an accusation. "So we'll have a test," Rosa announced. "Everyone here will take an oath, old country style, blood oath of loyalty to this family, to our business, to Omerta. Anyone who refuses or who breaks this oath, well," she smiled coldly. "Let's hope everyone remembers their Torino." Sal produced an ornate knife, its blade gleaming. A ceramic bowl appeared. This was really happening. A blood oath ceremony in 21st century Chicago. "I'll go first," Marcus declared, rolling up his sleeve. He drew the blade across his palm, letting blood drip into the bowl. "I swear by my blood, by my children's lives, by all I hold sacred. I am loyal to this family and will die before betraying it." One by one, family members followed. Patricia, tears streaming as she swore. Roberto, voice shaking. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all bleeding their loyalty into Rosa's bowl. Bradley's turn. His hand trembled, taking the knife. Our eyes met across the table. If he refused, his cover was blown. If he swore and was discovered, the consequences would be worse. He cut deep blood flowing freely. "I swear by this blood, by my life, by my love for this family. I am loyal and will remain so until death." Rosa nodded approvingly. "Good boy, your father raised you right." The knife passed around the table, coming closer to me. My parents, confused but swept up in the ceremony, had already sworn. Dad's construction company made him part of this, whether he knew it or not. Finally, Sal placed the knife before me, the blade still wet with family blood, the bowl nearly full. Everyone watched, Rosa most intently of all. "Roxanne," she said softly, "my disappointing granddaughter, my failed lawyer, my retail worker, will you swear?" I picked up the knife, its weight heavy with implication. Cut and swear, becoming bound by blood to the criminal empire. Refuse and confirm their suspicions. "I need to say something first," I said, voice steady despite everything. Rosa's eyes narrowed. "Speak." "I know I've been a disappointment. Dropping out, working minimum wage, missing family events because I couldn't afford proper clothes." I let real emotion creep in, the pain of 3 years isolation. But I've never stopped being a Torino, never stopped loving this family even when it stopped believing in me. Tears came easily. They were mostly genuine. "You want my blood. You've had it since birth. You want my loyalty. You've had it through every insult, every joke, every reminder of my failures." I drew the blade across my palm, cutting deeper than necessary. Pain flared as blood welled up. "I swear by this blood, by the name Torino, by everything you've all made clear I've failed to achieve. I am exactly who I appear to be. Nothing more, nothing less." I let blood pool in the bowl, holding Rosa's gaze. "Is that enough, Nonna? Or do you need more proof that the family disappointment knows her place?" Silence stretched taut. Then Rosa laughed. Actually laughed. "Brava such fire. There's the granddaughter I remember." She clapped slowly. "You see, Marcus, this one has spine after all." But her eyes remained calculating, and I knew the test wasn't over. The blood oath was just the beginning. "Now," Rosa announced, "we feast. Nothing settles family business like good food." Servers reappeared carrying platters of food. Normal Sunday dinner resumed if normal included bleeding palms and federal agents listening to every word. I bandaged my hand with a napkin, the ceramic knife still pressing against my boot. Roxanne. Rosa said between bites of chicken parmigiana, Patricia mentioned offering you work. You should accept. I'm considering it, I replied carefully. Consider faster. At your age, I had 3 children and was already running numbers for your grandfather. Times change, Nona. Times change, but family doesn't. We take care of our own. She paused meaningfully. And we handle those who threaten us, like that professor of yours. My blood chilled. Professor Williams, I heard he died in a car accident. Accidents happen to people who forget their place. He threatened you, so he had an accident. Simple. She was confessing to murder as casually as discussing weather. Through my wire, federal agents were recording every word. I didn't know. I managed. Of course not. You were young, naive, thought law and justice mattered more than family. Rosa patted my uninjured hand. But you learned better, didn't you? Learned to keep quiet, stay small, survive. Yes, Nonna. Good. Because the family has big plans. Change is coming. We're expanding operations, bringing in new partners. Everyone will benefit, even disappointing granddaughters who know their place. Marcus raised his glass. To the future. Everyone toasted wine mixing with the metallic taste of fear in my mouth. Around me, a criminal empire celebrated its continued existence, while federal agents gathered evidence for its destruction. But Rosa wasn't done testing. As dessert arrived, her famous tiramisu, she made another announcement. One more thing, the rat among us, I know who it is. Forks froze midway to mouths. Bradley went pale. I forced myself to keep eating, though each bite felt like sawdust. It's David. My father's name hit like a physical blow. He looked up confused. Rosa, what are you talking about? Your construction company. So convenient how federal agents knew exactly when we used it. Almost like someone told them. Her voice remained conversational, but Sal's hand moved toward his concealed weapon. I don't understand, Dad stammered. You said you needed storage for pharmaceutical supplies. I had no idea. No idea, Rosa repeated. Yet agents appeared at precisely the right moment. Either you're the world's unluckiest man or you've been talking. Mama, that's ridiculous, Mom interjected, voice sharp with fear. David would never. Wouldn't he? His business struggles, bills mounting. Maybe federal agents offered a deal, money for information, immunity for cooperation. This was beyond testing. Rosa was setting up my father as the fall guy, just as Bradley had warned. If she couldn't find the real rat, she'd create one. No, I said louder than intended. Dad would never betray family. You know him, Nona. 25 years married to your daughter. He's not capable of deception. Everyone's capable when desperate, Rosa countered. But you defend him so fiercely. Why? Trap within trap. Defend too hard seems suspicious. Don't defend, let my father take the blame. Because I've watched him struggle, I said, letting anger creep in. Watched him work 18-hour days trying to save his company. If he knew anything about your business, which clearly he didn't, he'd have asked for help, not gone to feds. Maybe. Or maybe father and daughter worked together. The failure and the desperate man selling out family for federal dollars. Stop. Bradley's voice cut through. This is insane. Grandma, you're seeing ghosts. Uncle David can barely use email, let alone coordinate with federal agents. And Roxanne. Look at her. She can barely afford groceries. You defend them too eagerly, grandson, Rosa observed. I defend logic, Bradley shot back. If we tear ourselves apart with paranoia, the feds win without lifting a finger. Marcus put a hand on Bradley's shoulder. Watch your tone with your grandmother. No, let him speak, Rosa said. The boy makes a point. Perhaps I'm seeing shadows where there's only light. But her eyes said otherwise. She knew something, suspected something. The blood oath hadn't satisfied her. However, she continued, trust requires verification. David, you'll submit your company's books for review, all of them. Marcus will examine everything. Of course, Dad agreed quickly, still confused but eager to prove innocence. And Roxanne, you'll start working for Patricia tomorrow, where I can keep an eye on you. No request, just a command. Accept and be drawn deeper into criminal activity. Refuse and confirm suspicions. Yes, Nonna, I said. Excellent. Now who wants more tiramisu? The rest of dinner passed in surreal normalcy. Family gossip, wedding planning, sports arguments, all while blood dried on our palms and federal agents documented every word. Twice I caught Rosa studying me, her ancient eyes holding secrets and suspicions. As dinner ended and family began departing, she called me back. Stay, we talk. My parents hesitated. Go, I told them. I'll catch up. Soon only Rosa, Marcus, Sal, and I remained. Bradley had been dismissed with the others, his wire going dark. I was alone in the wolf's den. Sit, Rosa commanded, pouring espresso from an antique pot. You know you remind me of myself at your age. I'm nothing like you, Nonna. No smart girl trapped by circumstances underestimated by men forced to be less than she is. She smiled. I was pregnant with Marcus, your grandfather beating me nightly, everyone saying I was just another Italian wife. Nobody saw what I could become. You became a criminal, I said quietly. I became a survivor, then a leader, then a legend. She sipped her espresso. You could too if you stopped playing small. Is that what this is, a recruitment? It's a choice. Work for Patricia, prove yourself, rise in the family. Or stay retail worker, stay nothing, stay safe. Her voice hardened. But staying nothing while knowing our business? That's dangerous, for everyone. There it was, the real threat. Join us or die wrapped in grandmother's concern. I understand, I said. Do you? Because I look at you, Roxanne, and I see intelligence pretending to be stupid, strength pretending to be weak, purpose pretending to be aimless. She leaned forward. I see someone wearing a mask, and I wonder, what's underneath? My heart hammered, but I met her gaze. Disappointment. That's all that's underneath. Ask anyone in the family. Maybe. Or maybe the disappointed are just the best at surprising us. She stood suddenly looking all of her 78 years. Report to Patricia tomorrow, 9 a.m. sharp. We'll see what you're really made of. Yes, Nonna. She kissed both my cheeks, her lips cold. Oh, and Roxanne, if you are what I suspect, if you've betrayed blood for a badge, well, even God won't find your body. Understand? I understand. I left through the kitchen past cousins cleaning dishes who wouldn't meet my eyes. Everyone sensed the sword hanging over my head. In my car, I waited until I'd driven 3 blocks before speaking. Phoenix is clear. Did you get everything? Every word, Rodriguez confirmed. Jesus Bellini, she practically confessed to William's murder and threatened you in the same breath. We need to extract my parents tonight. They're in danger whether they know it or not. Teams are already moving. We'll stage a gas leak at their house, evacuate them to safety. They'll be protected. And Bradley. His last transmission showed him arriving home safely. We'll debrief in the morning. I drove through Chicago's dark streets, hand throbbing where I'd cut it for the blood oath. Tomorrow I'd walk into Patricia's money laundering operation wearing a wire. Tomorrow the endgame would begin. But tonight I was just Roxanne Bellini, the family disappointment who'd survived Sunday dinner with the devil, the granddaughter who'd looked Rosa in the eye and lied with blood on her hands. The war between family and justice was entering its final phase, and only one side would survive. My mother stood at my apartment door at 6 a.m., still in her pajamas beneath a winter coat. Her face showed a mix of confusion, fear, and something else. Determination. Mom, what are you doing here? Is Dad okay? Your father's fine. He's at a hotel. There was a gas leak, they said. Had to evacuate. She pushed past me into the apartment. But that's not why I'm here. I closed the door, mind racing. Rodriguez had evacuated them as promised, but Mom showing up here wasn't part of the plan. Coffee. I offered buying time. Roxanne Marie Bellini, she said, using my full name like when I was in trouble as a child. I need you to tell me the truth, right now. About what? She pulled out her phone showing me a photo, security footage from outside Rosa's restaurant, me getting into my car speaking animatedly to no one visible, speaking to my wire. I have a friend who works at the boutique across the street, Mom said. She sent this last night worried you were having a breakdown talking to yourself after family dinner. My blood chilled. If Mom's friend had noticed, who else might have? Mom, I can explain. Are you a federal agent? The question hung between us like a loaded gun. I opened my mouth to deny to lie, but saw something in her eyes that stopped me. How long have you known? I asked instead. She sank onto my couch, suddenly looking older. I didn't. Not for certain. But things added up. You dropping out right after the threats. The way you watch everyone at family gatherings. How you're always broke but never actually desperate. Mom! And last night, that blood oath insanity. You handled it too well. My retail worker daughter, calm as a surgeon, while everyone else panicked. Tears rolled down her cheeks. 3 years, Roxanne. 3 years of lies. I sat beside her, taking her hands. Not lies, protection. Everything I did was to protect you and Dad. From what family has become. I made a decision that could end everything. Mom, I need you to listen and not react. This apartment is probably clean, but I can't be certain. Her eyes widened, but she nodded. I am a deputy U.S. Marshal, I whispered. I've been undercover investigating organized crime connected to our family. What Rosa runs isn't just a restaurant, it's a criminal empire. Drugs, money laundering, murder. No. Mom shook her head. That's impossible. Rosa makes sauce and tells stories. Marcus is a lawyer. Patricia runs charities. All covers. Dad's construction company has been used to transport drugs. Those pharmaceutical supplies, fentanyl. The professor who died after I dropped out Rosa had him killed. Mom's face cycled through denial, shock, acceptance, and finally, anger. You're telling me I've been bringing my children to a crime boss for Sunday dinner, that my mother is a murderer. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you so many times. Sorry? She stood pacing. My daughter has been risking her life for 3 years while I serve dessert to killers. Mom, please. And David, my husband's company, he doesn't know. He's completely innocent, but they're setting him up to take the fall if needed. She whirled on me. We have to tell him, warn the family. We can't. Any warning gets people killed. The only way to protect everyone is to let this play out. Play out? Her voice rose. Rosa threatened you last night. I'm not stupid, Roxanne. That wasn't grandmother's concern. That was a mob boss marking a target. Which is why we need to be careful. Careful? I've been careful for 30 years. She pulled a thick manila envelope from her coat. You think you're the only one who sees things. She dumped the contents on my coffee table. Photos, documents, receipts, some dating back decades. What is this? Insurance, Mom said grimly. I started collecting after your father and I got married. Little things that didn't add up. Marcus's first house. Too expensive for a young lawyer. Patricia's charity that never seemed to actually help anyone. Roberto's shipping manifests that didn't match customs records. I rifled through the papers, stunned. Mom, this is evidence of money laundering going back to the 90s. I know what it is. I'm not some naive housewife, Roxanne. I'm Rosa's daughter. I learned to watch, to listen, to document. Her voice hardened. I also learned to keep my mouth shut to keep my children safe. Why didn't you ever... What report my mother destroy my family, get us all killed? She laughed bitterly. I chose willful ignorance, kept you and your brother away from the business side, thought if I played dumb long enough, maybe it would all just go away. But you kept records. Because I'm Rosa's daughter. Always have insurance, she taught me. Never trust completely, not even blood. Mom sat again, suddenly exhausted. When you dropped out, I knew something had happened. The timing with Professor Williams, I suspected but didn't want to believe. So why come here now? Because last night, watching that insane blood ceremony, seeing Rosa threaten you and David, I realized playing dumb won't protect anyone anymore. She gripped my hands. They're going to kill you, baby. Maybe not today, but soon. Rosa's too smart to let suspicion linger. I know, but we're close to ending this. My partner inside, Bradley. Mom said, surprising me again. Has to be. Poor boy looked ready to vomit during the blood oath. How do you... Because I know my family. Bradley's gay in a family that would disown him. He's Marcus's son, but hates everything Marcus represents. Who else would turn... My mother kept surprising me. The woman I'd thought needed protection had been playing her own long game. There's more, Mom continued. Things not in those documents because they're too dangerous to write down. Rosa's connections go higher than you know. Judges, politicians, police commissioners, people who vacation at their houses, whose kids got into Ivy League schools thanks to Rosa's donations. We know about some of them. Do you know about the federal prosecutor who took money to throw cases, the DEA agent who tips them off about raids, the congressman who ensures certain bills never make it out of committee? Each name she listed was another bomb in my investigation. We'd suspected corruption, but not this deep. I need names, Mom, details. After you get us safe. All of us. Me, your father, your brother in Seattle, who you think doesn't know but does. She smiled sadly. We're not idiots, Roxanne. We're survivors who chose different ways to survive. My phone buzzed. Patricia, where are you? It's 8:45. I have to go, I said. I'm supposed to start working for Patricia today. The money laundering, Mom said. It wasn't a question. She'll test you with small tasks first. Moving money between accounts, probably the children's charity. She likes to see if people flinch at stealing from kids. Any advice? Don't be too good at it. Patricia's paranoid about being replaced. Be competent, but not threateningly so. Mom stood gathering her documents. These are copies. Originals are in a safety deposit box your father doesn't know about. If something happens to me, nothing will happen. If something happens, she continued firmly, Box 447 at First National on Madison. Keys hidden in your old music box at home, the one that plays Claire de Lune. She pulled me into a fierce hug. I'm proud of you. Terrified, furious at the lies, but proud. You're doing what I never had the courage to do. Mom, go. Patricia hates tardiness. But Roxanne, whatever happens, whatever you have to do, survive. The family can burn, but you survive. Promise me. I promise. She left first, taking a circuitous route. I waited 10 minutes, then called Rodriguez. My cover might be blown. My mother figured it out. How? I explained quickly, including the treasure trove of evidence she'd collected. Jesus Christ, Rodriguez breathed. Your mother's been running her own intelligence operation for 3 decades. Apparently, crime fighting runs in the family. This changes things. If she knows others might suspect, we need to accelerate the timeline. No, pulling out now wastes Bradley's position and Mom's evidence. Give me 1 day with Patricia. Let me get inside the money operation. Bellini. 1 day. If it goes bad, you have the blood oath recording Bradley's evidence and now my mother's documentation. Enough to bury them all. Rodriguez sighed. 24 hours, but we're doubling surveillance. First sign of trouble. Pepperoni pizza, I confirmed. I know. I dressed carefully for Patricia's world. Business casual that suggested ambition without threatening her designer supremacy. The wire, when in place, tested twice. The ceramic knife in my boot felt heavier today. Patricia's office occupied the top floor of a Michigan Avenue high-rise, all glass and chrome and stolen money. The Torino Foundation's mission statement dominated one wall, bringing hope to Chicago's children. You're late, Patricia said without looking up from her Mac. Traffic, sorry, Aunt Patricia. In this office, it's Ms. Torino. Professional boundaries matter. She finally looked at me, taking in my outfit with obvious disdain. Better than retail wear, I suppose. Sit. I took the chair across from her massive desk, noting the exit's windows' potential weapons. Patricia's assistant, a nervous young man named Kevin, brought coffee without being asked. "Let's be clear," Patricia began. "I don't want you here. This is Rosa's idea. But since you're here, you'll be useful or you'll be gone. Understand?" "Yes, Ms. Torino." "Good. First lesson. Charity is the perfect business. People give money expecting nothing back but feelings. We provide those feelings while keeping the money. Everyone wins." She turned her screen toward me, showing spreadsheets that might as well have been written in blood. Donations and expenditures out, but the math didn't add up. Millions vanished into administrative costs, consulting fees, vendor payments to companies that existed only on paper. "Your job," Patricia continued, "is data entry. Boring, tedious, perfect for someone of your background. But it's important. Every donation must be properly coded, every expense properly categorized." "Coded how?" She smiled like a shark. "Smart question. Donations fall into categories. Clean money from legitimate donors goes to actual charity work, about 10%. Dirty money gets washed through vendor payments, comes back clean. The coding tells us which is which." It was brilliantly simple. Hide criminal proceeds among thousands of legitimate donations, use charity infrastructure to launder it, take advantage of less stringent oversight on nonprofits. For example, Patricia pulled up a donation. This $5,000 from Mrs. Henderson is legitimate. Code blue. But this $50,000 anonymous donation, code red. That needs special handling. Where does red money come from? Patricia's eyes narrowed. "Do you really want to know, or are you smart enough to just do the work?" Test within test. Show too much curiosity, seem like a threat. Show too little, seem suspicious. "I'd rather stay ignorant," I said. "Safer that way." "Good girl. Maybe you're not as stupid as you look." She set me up at a smaller desk computer, loaded with the Foundation's financial software. For the next 4 hours, I entered donations, categorized expenses, and watched millions of dollars dance between accounts like a shell game. Every transaction was evidence. Blue money from charity galas and guilt-ridden socialites. Red money from sources that trace back to pharmaceutical companies, shipping corporations, construction firms. All fronts for drug money. "You're efficient," Patricia observed over my shoulder. "Accurate, too. Where did retail teach you spreadsheet skills?" "Community college," I lied, before I dropped out of that too. Kevin bring the Sanders files." Kevin scurried over with a banker's box. Patricia dumped it on my desk. Receipts, invoices, donation forms, all needing entry. "This is priority. Major donors being audited needs clean records by tomorrow. Think you can handle it?" I rifled through the papers, recognizing what this really was. Sanders was a federal judge. These were bribes disguised as charity donations. Patricia was testing if I'd process corruption without flinching. "Just data entry, right?" I said. "Exactly, just numbers on a screen." As Patricia returned to her office, I got to work. But something nagged at me. This felt too easy, too quick. Patricia showing me the entire money laundering operation on day 1. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, but the message made my blood freeze. "Check your email, Sebral B." I opened my personal email on my phone, finding a video file from Bradley's anonymous account. The timestamp showed 4 a.m. this morning. I plugged in earbuds, hunching over like I was listening to music while working. The video showed Rosa's restaurant kitchen. Bradley's voice shaky. "If you're seeing this, something's happened. After you left dinner, Grandma called me back. She knows Roxanne. Not suspects, knows. She has photos of you entering the federal building. Has confirmation you're Marshall Bellini. This is all a trap. Patricia's job, the access, everything. They're giving you enough rope to hang yourself while they figure out how deep the betrayal goes. Get out. Get out now before..." The video cut off. I looked up to find Patricia watching me from her doorway cell phone in hand. Problem with the data? She asked sweetly. No, I managed. Just checking a personal email. Personal business on company time tisk, though I suppose you're used to different standards in retail. She glided back into her office, but I caught her reflection in the window. She was texting rapidly, urgently. I forced myself to keep working, mind racing. If Rosa knew why, hadn't they grabbed me at dinner? Why let me come here, access their financial systems? The answer came with terrifying clarity. They wanted to know who else was involved. Every transaction I touched, every file I accessed was being monitored. They were mapping my investigation through my actions. My earpiece crackled. Phoenix were reading elevated stress indicators, status. I couldn't respond without blowing cover completely. Instead, I typed a donation entry with specific numbers, 911505, emergency SOS. Copy that. Extraction teams moving to position. Give us the word. But I couldn't. Not yet. If I ran now, Bradley's cover was blown. Mom's evidence would be worthless without corroboration. Everything we'd built would crumble. I kept working, playing the oblivious fool while my mind calculated odds. Patricia made occasional comments probing for reactions. Kevin brought more files, each one seeming more damning than the last. Then at 2 p.m., Rosa walked in. She shouldn't have been able to. 78 years old, supposedly ill, but she moved through Patricia's office like she owned it, which she did. Nonna, I said, standing. I didn't expect— Sit, she commanded. Don't let me interrupt your con-education. She pulled a chair next to mine close enough that I could smell her perfume mixed with garlic from the restaurant. Her weathered hand covered mine on the mouse. Show me what you're working on. I walked her through the Sanders files, voice steady despite everything. Rosa nodded along, occasionally asking questions that seemed innocent but probed deeper. Such detail, she mused. Patricia says you're a natural. Clean work, efficient, no questions asked. Ideal employee. I try, Nonna. Yes, you try very hard at many things. Her grip on my hand tightened. Tell me, what do you think of our foundation? It helps children, I said carefully. Important work. Important work, she repeated, like the work federal marshals do. The office went silent. Patricia stood in her doorway. Kevin had vanished. Somewhere in the building, Sal and his men were certainly positioned. I don't understand, I said. No, then, let me explain. Rosa pulled out a tablet showing security footage. Me entering the federal building. Me meeting Bradley at the coffee shop. Me speaking to my wire after dinner. Deputy U.S. Marshal Roxanne Bellini, my granddaughter the Fed. The game was over, but I had one card left to play. Pepperoni pizza, I said clearly. Rosa laughed. Your safe word. Oh, cara mia, we've been monitoring federal frequencies since last night. Your backup is currently responding to false emergency calls across the city. No one's coming. My hand moved toward my boot, toward the ceramic knife, but Sal appeared behind me, pressing a gun to my head. Don't, Rosa said sadly. I'd hate to splatter your brains on Patricia's nice carpet. We have so much to discuss first. Like what? How you murdered Professor Williams. How you've poisoned Chicago with drugs. How you corrupted everything our family touched. Like why I haven't killed you yet, Rosa said. Aren't you curious, 3 years undercover Bradley turning rat your mother's little evidence collection? Oh yes, I know about that too. Yet here you sit still breathing. Because you need to know how deep it goes, who else is involved. Partly, but mostly because you fascinate me. She released my hand, sitting back. The granddaughter I groomed to take over, choosing justice over family. It's almost admirable. I chose right over wrong. You chose strangers over blood, but that's not what interests me. She smiled. What interests me is that you're not wearing a wire today. My blood froze. In my rush after Mom's visit after Bradley's warning, I'd forgotten to put it back on after testing it. Technical malfunction, I said. Or a granddaughter who knew she was walking into a trap but came anyway. Who knew saying the safe word would bring a war to our doorstep but said it anyway? Rosa studied me. You're protecting someone. Not your parents. We already have them. Not Bradley. We'll deal with him shortly. So who? I stayed silent. Ah, the boyfriend. What was his name? Thomas Sweetboy works at Northwestern Hospital. Pediatric nurse, I believe. Such vulnerable patients he cares for. You touch him and I'll... You'll what you're disarmed, surrounded, cut off from backup. Rosa stood. But Thomas is safe. Bradley too, for now, because I'm going to make you an offer. I won't. You'll listen, she snapped steel in her voice. The family is blown. You've seen to that. Federal investigations, evidence recordings. We could fight, but it would be messy, expensive, public. Patricia made a sound of protest, but Rosa silenced her with a gesture. So we're leaving, Rosa continued. All of us. Tonight. Accounts are already moving offshore. Properties transferring to shell companies. By tomorrow, the Torino crime family will cease to exist. We'll find you. Perhaps, but consider the cost. Trials dragging on for years. Witnesses disappearing. Jury members having accidents. Your parents living in fear forever. She leaned close. Or you let us go. Clean break. We disappear, Chicago's drug trade takes a hit. You're the hero who broke the family. Everyone wins. Except your victims, the overdoses, the families destroyed. Casualties of business. But that business ends tonight with or without bloodshed. Your choice. I looked at Patricia, at Sal with his gun, at Rosa with her cold calculation. 3 years of work and it came down to this moment. I can't make that deal, I said. I thought not. Torino stubbornness. You got it from me. Rosa sighed. Then we do this the hard way. Sal, the gun pressed harder against my skull. This was it. The family disappointment's final failure. Then the windows exploded. Flashbang grenades filled the office with light and sound. I dropped rolling toward my boot knife as tactical teams rappelled through the shattered windows. Federal agents flooded through doors, weapons drawn screaming commands. Rosa stood calmly in the chaos, hands raised, looking at me with something like pride. You clever girl. The safe word wasn't to call them, it was to warn them you were compromised. They were already coming. She was right. Rodriguez had listened to my 911 code, heard the stress in my voice, made the call. The false emergencies hadn't pulled all units, just the ones Rosa could monitor. Rosa Torino. I said, standing with my newly recovered badge visible, you're under arrest for racketeering murder money, laundering, and conspiracy to distribute controlled substances. Among other things, she agreed pleasantly. Patricia, remember what we discussed. Sal, weapon down, hands visible. No need for anyone else to die today. As agents cuffed them, Rosa looked at me one last time. You know this isn't over. We have lawyers, connections, resources you can't imagine. And we have evidence. 3 years worth plus 30 years of Mom's documentation. Your empire ends today. Perhaps, but you ended more than that. You ended family, ended us. Was your justice worth that price? I thought of overdose victims, of families destroyed, of Professor Williams murdered for threatening to tell the truth. Yes. She nodded slowly. Then you really are my granddaughter. I'd have made the same choice, reversed positions. Cold comfort, but comfort nonetheless. They led her away, this elderly woman who'd built an empire on blood and suffering. Patricia went quietly, already calculating legal strategies. Sal surrendered his weapons with professional calm. Bellini Rodriguez appeared beside me, outstanding work, though cutting it close on the wire malfunction. Yeah, about that. Bradley's secure, he continued. We grabbed him an hour ago when he tried to run. He's cooperating fully. Your parents are in protective custody. Your mother's evidence is incredible. We've got them all. Thomas Bradley's boyfriend. Under protection since last night. We're not amateurs, Bellini. Relief flooded through me. Everyone safe, everyone alive. The cost had been high, but we'd won. So what now? I asked, looking at the destroyed office at federal agents cataloging evidence at my family's criminal empire crumbling. Now we build cases. Trials will take years, but with what we have, they'll all go down. Rosa Marcus, Patricia Roberto, the whole network. And me? Rodriguez smiled. 3 years undercover bringing down a major crime family. You just made your career Deputy Marshal Bellini, though I suspect you'll need a new name. Can't have a Torino testifying against Torinos. I touched my badge, then the cut on my palm from the blood oath. No, I'll testify as Roxanne Torino Bellini. Let them see that family chose justice. That blood doesn't excuse brutality. Your choice, but Bellini, take a vacation first. You've earned it. As crime scene techs processed the office, I stood at the shattered window looking out over Chicago. Somewhere out there, drugs wouldn't flow as freely tonight. Children would be safer. Families would be spared the Torino poison. The family disappointment had become the family's destruction. And despite Rosa's words, despite the pain of betraying blood, I knew I'd made the right choice. My phone buzzed. Mom, saw the news. Federal raid on Michigan Avenue. You safe. I typed back, safe. It's over. We won. Her response came quick. No. Now it begins. Trial's testimony rebuilding. But we'll face it together. Family, the real kind, survives. She was right. I'd destroyed the Torino crime family, but the Bellini family remained. Scarred, complicated, but honest. That was worth more than all of Rosa's empire. The sun set over Chicago, painting the sky red like blood, like wine, like the promise of a new dawn. Tomorrow would bring questions, recriminations, the long path of justice. But tonight, Deputy U.S. Marshal Roxanne Bellini stood tall, badge bright, finally free of the family legacy that had tried to claim her. The dropout had graduated to something far more important than any law degree. She'd graduated to justice. 6 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse bathroom stall trying not to vomit. Today was Marcus's preliminary hearing, and I was the star witness. The woman in the mirror looked different. Professional suit instead of retail discount, confident posture instead of studied failure. But inside, I was still the niece about to testify against the uncle who'd called me worthless. Bellini, you good. Marshal Thompson knocked on the door. Just need a minute. Rodriguez wants you in the prep room. Bradley's getting nervous. Bradley. My former conspiracy partner turned state's witness, now preparing to testify against his own father. We'd become close through the trial preparation. Trauma bonding, the prosecutors called it. I called it survival. I found him in the witness room, impeccably dressed, but pale as paper. Thomas sat beside him, holding his hand despite the armed guard's presence. How do you do it? Bradley asked when he saw me. Face them every hearing, every deposition, knowing they want us dead. I remember why we're doing this, I said, sitting across from them. Every pill that doesn't kill someone. Every family that doesn't lose a child to fentanyl. Noble, he said bitterly. But nobility doesn't stop the nightmares. Doesn't stop me from seeing my father's face when they arrested him. Thomas squeezed his hand. You're saving lives. That matters more than his approval ever did. Does it? Bradley looked at me. Roxanne, we destroyed our family. Everyone's in jail or fled. Even the innocent ones are tainted by association. Was justice worth becoming orphans? Before I could answer, Rodriguez entered. Showtime, people. Marcus's lawyer is Vincent Calabrese, mob attorney extraordinaire. He'll try to paint you both as bitter relatives seeking revenge. Stick to facts, not feelings. We filed into the courtroom through a secure entrance. The gallery was packed. Reporters, curiosity seekers, and family. I spotted my parents in the front row, Mom gripping Dad's hand. They'd stood by me through everything, even as their world crumbled. But it was the defendant's table that drew my attention. Marcus sat in an expensive suit, thinner than before, but still radiating arrogance. He turned as we entered, eyes locking with mine. The uncle who'd mocked me at every family gathering now depended on my testimony for his fate. The United States versus Marcus Torino, the clerk announced. Judge Harrison presiding. My blood chilled. Harrison, the same judge Rosa had bragged about owning. He'd supposedly recused himself from anything Torino-related. Prosecutor Jennifer Walsh stood immediately. Your Honor, we object to your presence. You're listed as a recipient of Torino family bribes. Harrison smiled coldly. Those allegations were investigated and dismissed. I've been cleared to preside. Unless the prosecution has evidence otherwise. Walsh glanced at Rodriguez, who shook his head minutely. Whatever evidence we'd had on Harrison, it wasn't enough. No further objection, Walsh said through gritted teeth. The hearing proceeded like a chess match. Calabrese painted Marcus as a legitimate lawyer caught up in his family's crimes. Walsh systematically destroyed that image with documents, recordings, and testimony. Then it was my turn. State your name for the record. Deputy U.S. Marshal Roxanne Bellini. Marcus flinched at my title. Even now, months later, he struggled to reconcile the dropout niece with the federal agent. Walsh walked me through the evidence methodically. The construction site surveillance, the pharmaceutical shipments, the money flowing through Patricia's charity. With each revelation, Marcus's jaw tightened. Ms. Bellini. Calabrese began his cross-examination with a shark's smile. Isn't it true you harbored resentment toward my client for his success? I harbored resentment toward his criminal activities. Activities you claim to have witnessed while undercover. Tell me, how does a law school dropout become a federal marshal? By reporting corruption and having my life threatened for it. The marshals recruited me specifically because I chose integrity over convenience. Integrity. Calabrese laughed. You lied to your family for 3 years, accepted their hospitality, ate at their table, all while planning their destruction. Is that integrity? Objection, Walsh called, argumentative. Overruled, Harrison said, smiling slightly. The witness may answer. Integrity, I said firmly, is choosing justice over blood, choosing to stop drug dealers even when they share your name. Drug dealers. My client is a respected attorney. Your client personally supervised midnight drug transfers. I have video evidence. Calabrese's smile faltered. Video that could be doctored. Deep fakes are common now. Then perhaps Bradley Torino's testimony will be more convincing, Walsh interjected. The defendant's own son. Marcus's composure finally cracked. That ungrateful little... Mr. Torino, Harrison warned, though his heart wasn't in it. Bradley took the stand, next hands trembling as he was sworn in. Watching Marcus watch his son was like seeing a predator realize it was prey. Mr. Torino. Walsh began gently, tell us about your father's pharmaceutical practice. Bradley's testimony was devastating. Names, dates, amounts. He'd kept meticulous records knowing this day would come. With each revelation, Marcus's face darkened. You documented your father's crimes for months. Calabrese attacked during Cross. Why didn't you report them immediately? Because he threatened me, Bradley said quietly. Threatened people I loved. Threatened how? Bradley looked at Thomas in the gallery. He discovered I was gay, said he'd destroy anyone I cared about if I didn't join the family business. So you claim, but isn't it possible you're lying to protect your lifestyle? To gain revenge for his disappointment? Objection. Walsh shot up. Counsel is badgering. I'll answer. Bradley interrupted steel in his voice. My father's disappointment started long before he knew I was gay. It started when I showed compassion instead of cruelty, when I questioned instead of obeyed, when I chose love over fear. So yes, he was disappointed, but I'm not lying. I have recordings. The courtroom erupted as Bradley produced a flash drive. Harrison called for order, but damage was done. Whatever game he was playing, the evidence was overwhelming. Court recessed for lunch. In the hallway, Mom pulled me aside. That judge is dirty. We know, but without proof. I might have proof. She glanced around nervously. Remember my safety deposit box? There's more than just Torino evidence. Harrison's been taking money for 20 years. I have photos, bank records, even a recording of Rosa discussing his prices. Mom, why didn't you? Because Harrison has connections everywhere. Judges protect judges. But now, with everything public, she pressed a key into my hand. Box 447. There's a file marked Insurance. Everything's there. I found Rodriguez immediately. Within an hour, federal agents had retrieved Mom's files. By the time court reconvened, Harrison's career was over. Your Honor. Walsh stood. The prosecution moves for immediate recusal. We have evidence of your financial ties to the defendant. Harrison went white as Walsh presented bank records, photos of him with Rosa, even a Christmas card thanking him for his understanding and discretion. This is preposterous, Harrison began. This is criminal, Walsh corrected. Federal marshals are waiting outside to escort you to processing. The courtroom exploded. Reporters scrambled for phones. Marcus laughed bitterly. Even facing life in prison, he enjoyed watching another hypocrite fall. A new judge took over, Amelia Foster, known for her integrity and harsh sentences. The hearing resumed with Marcus's empire crumbling faster. That evening in a secure hotel, our protection detail kept watch, while Bradley Thomas, my parents, and I shared Chinese takeout. We did it, Bradley said wonderingly. We actually got Harrison, too. Mom got Harrison, I corrected. 30 years of evidence collection finally paid off. To Elena Bellini, Thomas raised his beer, the original family detective. We toasted, but the celebration felt hollow. Tomorrow would bring more testimony, more threats, more family members calling us traitors. The trial would drag on for months, maybe years. I've been thinking, Dad said suddenly. He'd been quiet through dinner, processing everything. When this is over, maybe we leave Chicago, start fresh somewhere. David. Mom began, but he continued. My company's ruined. No one wants to hire the contractor who transported drugs even unknowingly. You'll always be Rosa's daughter here. Roxanne will always be the cop who betrayed family. He looked at me. Maybe in Denver or Seattle, we could just be ourselves. Running away, I asked. Running toward, he corrected, toward a life where Sunday dinner doesn't include crime bosses, where family means love, not loyalty oaths. Bradley nodded slowly. Thomas has job offers in Boston. We've been considering it. You'd leave. I felt oddly bereft. We'd become our own strange family through this ordeal. Not abandoning, Bradley assured. Just surviving, separately but connected. The family Rosa never let us be. That night, unable to sleep, I stood on the hotel balcony despite security protests. Chicago spread before me, lights twinkling like stars. Somewhere out there, the Torino empire was collapsing. Dealers scrambled for new suppliers. Corrupt cops worried about investigations. Dirty money sat frozen in seized accounts. But also out there, families wouldn't lose children to Torino fentanyl. Communities could heal. Justice, slow and imperfect, ground forward. My phone buzzed. An unknown number, but I recognized the voice immediately. Hello, granddaughter. Rosa, calling from federal prison where she awaited trial. This call is being recorded and monitored, yes, she said calmly. I'm not calling to threaten, just to talk. One disappointment to another. You're not disappointed, you're proud. You said so during the arrest. Pride and disappointment aren't exclusive. I'm proud you had the spine to destroy us. Disappointed you felt it necessary. She paused. Tell me, was it worth it? Your noble justice. I thought of Marcus in Court Bradley's trembling hands, Mom's 30 years of silence, Dad's ruined business. Then I thought of every overdose prevented, every child saved from addiction. Yes, even knowing the cost, your cousin Ashley tried to kill herself yesterday. Shame of association. Your Aunt Maria's restaurant closed. No one wants to eat where criminals gathered. Innocents suffering for our sins. The words hit like physical blows. Ashley vain and cruel, but still family. Maria, who only made food and knew nothing of crime. Their suffering is on you, I said. You built this empire. You created the shame they carry. I built a legacy. You destroyed it. But perhaps, she chuckled, perhaps that's the most Torino thing of all. We always did eat our own. Why did you really call? To tell you something. The family business is done, but business itself continues. Others will fill the void. Mexican cartels, Russian, Bratva, Chinese triads. The drugs will flow just with different management. Then we'll stop them too. Will you, or will you discover what I learned long ago? Crime is Hydra. Cut one head, two, grow back. The demand remains, so supply follows. That doesn't mean we stop fighting. No, I suppose not. You have your father's stubborn optimism. It's almost charming. Her voice softened. Take care of Bradley. Prison won't be kind to Marcus's gay son who turned rat. He'll need protection. We'll protect our own. Your own, she mused. You've made a new family from the ashes of the old. How poetic, how painful, how perfectly Torino. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, then at the city beyond. Rosa was right about one thing. Crime would continue. But she was wrong about it being pointless to fight. Tomorrow would bring more testimony. More family members exposed more corruption, revealed more pain in pursuit of justice. But also, more lives saved, more communities, protected more proof that someone gave a damn. I went back inside where my chosen family slept. Parents who stood by me, a cousin who chose truth over comfort, his boyfriend, who loved him through it all. Not the family I was born into, but the family I'd earned. The war against the Torino Empire was almost won, but the war for Chicago's soul, for justice over blood, for right over easy, that war continued. And Deputy U.S. Marshal Roxanne Bellini would be on the front lines badge shining, surrounded by the family that mattered those who chose justice too. The dropout had become the law, and the law, unlike blood, was incorruptible. The safe house felt more like a prison after 8 months of trial preparation. I stared at my laptop screen, reviewing testimony for the dozenth time when Marshal Thompson burst through the door. "We have a problem," he announced, rain dripping from his coat. "Sal Dinetti's dead." I shot to my feet. What, he was in solitary? Poisoned. Someone got to his food. Professional hit made to look like an allergic reaction. Thompson's face was grim. But that's not the worst part. He left a note. He handed me an evidence bag containing a single piece of paper. Sal's shaky handwriting spelled out my doom. The rat marshal has been feeding Rosa information all along. Check her visitor logs. This is insane, I said, blood running cold. I've never visited Rosa. I've had no contact. I know that. Rodriguez knows that. But Internal Affairs doesn't. Thompson slumped into a chair. Someone's doctored the federal prison visitor records. Shows you visiting Rosa 12 times over the past 6 months. That's impossible. I've been under protection. The logs show you using your marshal credentials to bypass normal channels. Late-night visits, no recordings guard, conveniently absent. He met my eyes. Someone's setting you up and they're doing a hell of a job. My phone rang. Rodriguez. Bellini don't come to the courthouse today. IA is here with a warrant. They want to bring you in for questioning. Sir, I haven't... I know. But until we can prove these records are fake, you're suspended. Thompson will escort you to IA headquarters. The world tilted. 3 years undercover, months of testimony, and now I was the suspect. There's more, Rodriguez continued. They found $50,000 in cash in a safety deposit box under your mother's maiden name. Same bank where Bradley kept his evidence. The timing's suspicious as hell. Someone was playing chess while we'd been playing checkers. Every move calculated to destroy my credibility before the biggest trial in Chicago history. At IA headquarters, Agent Sarah Chen laid out the evidence with clinical precision. Visitor logs, financial records, even security footage that somehow showed someone matching my description entering the prison. Explain this, Chen demanded, sliding photos across the table. The woman in the grainy images could have been me. Same height, similar build face, obscured by shadows and angles. Whoever had planned this understood federal systems intimately. Deep fake technology, I said. Or a body double. Check the metadata. We did. Everything's clean. Timestamps match facial recognition, gives a 70% match to you. Chen leaned forward. Here's what I think happened. You got in deep with the Torinos, started sympathizing. Stockholm Syndrome. Rosa offered you money to keep her informed, maybe promised to spare your parents. Are you seriously suggesting I betrayed everything for $50,000? People have turned for less, and you had access to every aspect of the investigation. Rosa, knowing our moves, would explain why some raids came up empty, why certain witnesses disappeared before we could protect them. My mind raced, piecing together the trap. This is exactly what Rosa wants. Discredit me before I testify, throw the whole case into doubt. Or you're dirty and got caught, Chen interrupted. Bradley Torinos agreed to take a polygraph about your involvement. Says he noticed suspicious behavior but was too scared to report it. What? The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Bradley would never. He's in interrogation room 3 right now. Want to watch? Through the one-way mirror, I saw Bradley hooked to a polygraph machine. He looked terrible. Hollow eyes, trembling hands. The examiner asked baseline questions, then got to the point. Did Marshal Bellini ever say anything suggesting sympathy for Rosa Torino? Yes, Bradley answered, voice flat. Did she ever seem to know information she shouldn't have? Yes. Do you believe she may have been compromised? A long pause. I don't know. Maybe. I wanted to scream, to bang on the glass, to demand he tell the truth. But I saw something the examiner missed. The way Bradley's eyes kept darting to the corner. The specific pattern of his hand trembles. Morse code tapped against his thigh. THEYHAVETHOMAS. They had his boyfriend. Bradley wasn't betraying me. He was trying to save the man he loved. I need to make a call. I told Chen. You're not calling anyone until... They have Thomas Parker, Bradley's boyfriend. He's tapping code. Check the video. Chen frowned but reviewed the footage. Her expression shifted as she recognized the pattern. Son of a bitch. Martinez, get a team to Parker's apartment now. Too late. The team found Thomas's apartment, empty, signs of struggle, blood on the floor. A note on the kitchen table. The marshal's testimony dies, or the nurse does. You have 24 hours. This changes things, Chen admitted, but not everything. The evidence against you was planted by someone with inside knowledge. I finished. Think about it. Who knew about my mother's maiden name, who had access to prison visitor systems, who could doctor footage that well. You're suggesting someone in law enforcement is working for the Torinos. I'm suggesting Rosa's reach goes deeper than we knew. She called me from prison, told me the business would continue with new management. What if she was telling me her succession plan was already in motion? Chen's phone rang. She listened, face paling. There's been an incident at the courthouse. Judge Foster's in the hospital. Car accident on the way to court. Hit and run. The chess pieces were falling fast. First discredit me, then kidnap Thomas to control Bradley, now remove the clean judge. Someone was systematically destroying the prosecution's case. We need to find Thomas, I said urgently. If Bradley recants his testimony under duress, we need to clear you first, Chen corrected. Until these allegations are resolved, you're a liability. Then let me help resolve them. I know the Torino operations better than anyone. I can find Thomas. Chen studied me for a long moment. Rodriguez vouched for you. Says you're the cleanest cop he's ever worked with. But IA can't ignore evidence. Then don't ignore it. Follow it. Those visitor logs. Check which guard was supposedly absent during my visits. Check who had access to the systems. Someone left digital fingerprints. She nodded slowly. You get one chance. Thompson will shadow you. Any sign you're dirty. I'm not dirty. I'm being framed by someone who wants the Torino Empire to survive. Back at the safe house, I dove into the prison's digital systems with Thompson watching. The visitor logs were expertly altered but not perfect. Timestamps showed updates from a terminal that should have been offline during those hours. There, I pointed at the screen. That terminal is in the prison's administrative wing. Only senior staff have access. So we're looking at a high-level correctional officer or someone with their credentials. I pulled up staff records cross-referencing with the mysterious updates. One name kept appearing: Deputy Warden Patricia Reeves. Thompson whistled low. Reeves has been there 15 years. Spotless record. Check her finances. We dug deeper. Reeves lived modestly, no obvious wealth. But her daughter had just started at Northwestern Medical School, full tuition paid by a scholarship from the Torino Foundation. Got her, I breathed. The scholarship was approved 2 weeks before my first supposed visit. That's circumstantial. It's a start. Now we find Thomas before... My phone buzzed. Unknown number, but I recognized the voice immediately. Marcus calling from Federal Holding. Niece, he said smoothly. Enjoying your taste of injustice. How does it feel to be presumed guilty? Where's Thomas? Safe, for now. But his safety depends on your cooperation. Recant your testimony. Admit you fabricated evidence for career advancement. Take responsibility for the investigation's overreach. Go to hell, Marcus. I'm probably heading there anyway, but I won't go alone. You have 20 hours left. Thomas is diabetic, isn't he? Would be a shame if he missed his insulin. The line went dead. I looked at Thompson. We need to find him fast. Bellini, if you're being set up going rogue, won't help. Let the FBI handle... The FBI will follow protocol while Thomas dies. I know how the Torinos think, where they'd hold someone. I grabbed my jacket. You coming or not? Thompson sighed but followed. Rodriguez is going to kill me. We started with the obvious locations. Warehouses the Torinos had used, properties seized but not yet processed. All empty. As we drove through Chicago's rain-slicked streets, I tried to think like Rosa. She'd want him somewhere symbolic, I said suddenly. Somewhere that sends a message. Like where? Then it hit me. The old Torino bakery, where Rosa started before the restaurant. It's been closed for years, but the family still owns it. The bakery sat in an industrial district looking abandoned, but fresh tire tracks in the mud suggested recent visitors. Thompson called for backup while I studied the building. 6 entrances, I noted. They'll expect us at the main door, but there's an old delivery tunnel from Prohibition days. My grandfather used to tell stories about it. Backup's 10 minutes out. Thomas might not have 10 minutes. We found the tunnel entrance behind a rusted dumpster. The passage was narrow, dark, filled with decades of dust and rat droppings. We crawled through, guided by tactical flashlights. Voices echoed ahead. I recognized Sal's nephew, Tony Donetti, continuing the family business. Through a grate, I saw Thomas tied to a chair, unconscious but breathing. 3 guards, all armed. Boss says we ice him at midnight if the marshal doesn't fold, Tony was saying. Make it look like he tried to escape. I looked at Thompson, held up 3 fingers pointed at positions. He nodded, understanding. No time for perfect planning. We burst through simultaneously. Thompson took the left guard while I handled the right. Tony spun toward Thomas' gun, rising. Don't, I shouted, but he was already squeezing the trigger. I fired first. Tony dropped, clutching his shoulder. The 3rd guard surrendered, immediately dropping his weapon and raising hands. Thomas. I rushed to him, checking vitals, pulse weak but steady. As Thompson secured the scene, I found Thomas's medical kit in the corner. They'd at least kept him alive for leverage. Roxanne. Thomas's eyes fluttered open as I administered insulin. Bradley. They made him lie. I know, he's safe. You're safe now. Nope. He grabbed my arm weakly. You don't understand. It's not over. Rosa. She's been running things from inside. The warden. Reeves, we know. Not just Reeves, higher. Someone in DOJ. Someone who can access any system, change any record. His voice faded. Bradley heard them talking. Assistant director. He passed out before finishing, but he'd given me enough. Assistant director meant someone at the highest levels of law enforcement was dirty. Sirens approached. As EMTs loaded Thomas onto a stretcher, Chen arrived with a full internal affairs team. Impressive work, Bellini. We picked up Reeves an hour ago. She's already talking, confirming your visitor logs were fabricated. It goes higher, I said. Thomas said assistant director level. Chen's expression darkened. That's a serious allegation. This whole thing is serious. Someone's trying to save the Torino Empire by destroying the prosecution. What you need to do is report for debriefing. You're still suspended pending full investigation. She softened slightly. But off the record, good work. Thomas would be dead without you. At the hospital, Bradley sobbed apologies while clutching Thomas's hand. I'm sorry, Roxanne. They said they'd kill him slowly. I had to... You protected the person you love, I said. I understand. But now we fight back smart. Whoever's running this from inside, they just showed their hand. They're desperate enough to kidnap and frame. That means we're close. Rodriguez appeared looking exhausted. The Attorney General's office is opening a corruption probe. Every person with access to those systems is being investigated. In the meantime, the trial continues tomorrow with or without Foster. Who's presiding? Judge Catherine Stone, former military, no ties to Chicago, flown in specifically for this. He studied me. You're cleared to testify, but Chen wants you under IA surveillance. Fine, let them watch. I've got nothing to hide. But as I sat in that hospital room watching Bradley tend to Thomas, I wondered how deep the corruption went. The Torino Empire was supposed to be finished, but like Rosa had warned, crime was Hydra. Cut off one head, watch another grow. Tomorrow I would testify against Marcus, knowing someone powerful wanted me silenced. The family I'd betrayed still had claws even from behind bars. The war wasn't over. It had just revealed a new enemy, one wearing a badge. The federal courthouse basement conference room felt like a bunker. Marshal Rodriguez had called an emergency meeting at 5 a.m. 2 hours before Marcus's trial resumed. Around the table sat the core team, me, Thompson, Prosecutor Walsh, and Agent Chen from Internal Affairs. We've identified our mole, Rodriguez announced without preamble, sliding a file across the table. Assistant Director Harold Fitzgerald, DOJ Criminal Division, 15-year veteran spotless record, and Rosa Torino's inside man for the last decade. My stomach dropped. Fitzgerald had oversight of major organized crime cases. He'd had access to everything. Evidence, Walsh asked, already calculating how this would impact her case. Thomas Parker recorded partial conversations while captive. Bradley Torino provided financial records he'd hidden showing payments to Fitzgerald through shell companies. And Rodriguez paused. Fitzgerald's son died of an overdose 5 years ago. Fentanyl-laced heroin. You're saying he's working for the people who killed his son? Thompson asked, incredulous. We're saying grief makes people do incomprehensible things, Chen explained. Rosa apparently convinced him the real villains were the Mexican cartels. She promised to help him get revenge if he helped her maintain control of Chicago's drug trade. Classic Rosa, I muttered. Find someone's weakness twisted into loyalty. The question now, Walsh interjected, is how much Fitzgerald compromised? Which witnesses did he expose? Which safe houses did he burn? How many cases are tainted? Rodriguez's expression was grim. We have to assume everything. Every witness location, every piece of evidence, every strategy we've discussed in official channels. So we're flying blind into the biggest trial of the decade, I asked. Not blind, just careful. Rodriguez turned to me. Bellini, you testify in 3 hours. Fitzgerald doesn't know we've identified him. We're going to use that. I'm bait. You're a federal marshal who understands the stakes. Fitzgerald will make a move. Has to with trial resuming. When he does, we'll be ready. Walsh gathered her papers. I need to prepare for this. If Fitzgerald's been feeding information to the defense, Calabrese knows our entire strategy. As the meeting dispersed, Chen pulled me aside. There's something else. We've been monitoring Rosa's communications from prison. She made a call last night to a burner phone. One sentence before hanging up. The package arrives today. Package could mean anything. Weapons, drugs, a hit squad. Or documents. Fitzgerald had access to sealed FBI files on other crime families. What if Rosa's planning to expose corrupt officials in rival organizations, create chaos while she rebuilds? The implications were staggering. If Rosa had FBI intelligence on other crime families, she could start a war from her prison cell. We need to warn... I started, but Chen shook her head. Already in motion. Every major crime family in Chicago is being notified through back channels. If they have dirty cops, they'll handle it internally. Street justice. Sometimes that's the only kind that works. Chen's phone buzzed. Fitzgerald just entered the building. He's heading for the U.S. Attorney's office, probably trying to access the prosecution's final witness list. Let me guess, I'm on that list. Top of it. Along with your parents, Bradley, and 3 former Torino associates who flipped. She met my eyes. Whatever Fitzgerald's planning, it happens today. I returned to the witness prep room where my parents waited with their security detail. Mom was teaching Dad to play chess on a travel board, her way of managing stress. Knight to bishop 4, she said, then looked up at me. You look worried. Just ready for this to be over. Dad moved a pawn randomly. Your mother's been destroying me for an hour. Apparently she's been playing chess since college. Your father never asked, Mom said, capturing his queen. People assume housewives don't have strategic minds. Their mistake. Checkmate. Even now she surprised me. I wondered what other secrets Elena Bellini harbored behind her suburban facade. My phone vibrated. Bradley. They moved our testimony. We're going first now. Prosecutor says strategy change. They're shuffling the lineup, I told my parents, trying to throw off whoever's leaking to the defense. Smart, Mom noted. In chess, when your opponent knows your moves, you change the game. An hour later, we filed into the courtroom through a secure entrance. Judge Stone presided with military bearing, her eyes scanning for any disruption. The gallery was packed but orderly. Marcus sat at the defense table, orange jumpsuit, replacing his designer suits, but his arrogance remained intact. Bradley took the stand first. His testimony was devastating. Dates, times, amounts, names. But Calabrese was ready with a counterattack that proved inside information. Mr. Torino, isn't it true you suffer from anxiety disorder, that you've been prescribed Xanax, Klonopin, and other medications that can cause memory issues? Bradley's face went white. Those medical records were sealed. Yes, but that doesn't... And isn't it true you were hospitalized for a psychotic break 2 years ago, that you believed your family was trying to poison you? That was a reaction to medication, not psychosis. But you did make those accusations, told doctors your grandmother was putting substances in your food. Walsh objected furiously, but damage was done. Fitzgerald had fed them Bradley's confidential medical history, painting him as unstable. When my turn came, I was ready for war. State your name for the record. Deputy U.S. Marshal Roxanne Bellini. Ms. Bellini, Calabrese began immediately. Is it true you're currently under investigation by Internal Affairs? Walsh shot up. Objection relevance. Goes to credibility. Calabrese smiled. I'll allow it, Stone ruled. But tread carefully, Counselor. Yes, I answered. IA investigated false allegations that have since been disproven. False allegations. Like the false allegations you made against Professor Williams before dropping out of law school. Williams was taking bribes. He was murdered before he could be prosecuted. Allegedly murdered. No one was ever charged. Calabrese circled like a shark. You seem to see corruption everywhere, Marshal. In your professors, your family, even fellow law enforcement. Classic paranoid pattern, wouldn't you say? I see corruption where it exists, like in your client who personally supervised drug shipments that killed teenagers across Chicago. Allegedly supervised, based on grainy footage and the testimony of a medicated cousin and a paranoid dropout? Objection, Walsh interrupted. Sustained. Counselor, no more characterizations. But Calabresi wasn't done. Marshal Bellini, have you ever taken money from the Torino family? They paid for dinners sometimes. That's not what I asked. Have you ever received cash payments from Rosa Torino? A trap. The $50,000 planted in the safety deposit box. If I denied it and they had proof, I'd perjure myself. If I admitted it without context, I'd look corrupt. Money was placed in an account under my mother's name without my knowledge as part of a frame job. It's been seized as evidence of obstruction. So, money connected to you appeared mysteriously. How convenient. Just like evidence against my client appeared mysteriously. Your client left a trail of bodies and drugs across Chicago. Nothing mysterious about that. Calabresi smiled coldly. Speaking of bodies, let's discuss Thomas Parker. Objection, Walsh called. Mr. Parker is a victim, not... Mr. Parker was allegedly kidnapped, then conveniently rescued by Marshal Bellini, almost like she knew where to find him. The implication hung heavy, that I'd staged the kidnapping to boost my credibility. Before I could respond, a commotion erupted in the gallery. Gun, someone screamed. Chaos exploded. A man in a courier uniform had stood up, weapon emerging from a package. Security reacted instantly, but not fast enough. The gun swung toward the witness stand, toward me. Time slowed. I saw the muzzle flash, heard the shot, felt the impact as Marshal Thompson slammed into me from the side. We hit the floor hard as more shots erupted. Screams, breaking glass, the sharp crack of return fire from court security. When the smoke cleared, the fake courier was down, bleeding from multiple wounds. Thompson groaned beside me, blood spreading from his shoulder. Thompson. I pressed on the wound while EMTs rushed in. Better than your head, he gasped. Fitzgerald had to be. He was right. Only someone with high-level access could have gotten a weapon past courthouse security, could have planted an assassin with fake credentials. Judge Stone maintained order through sheer force of will. This courtroom is now a crime scene. Marshal, are you injured? No, Your Honor. I kept pressure on Thompson's wound. But I need to finish testifying. Roxanne, no. Mom called from the gallery, Dad restraining her from rushing to me. The defense still has questions, I said firmly. Let's finish this. Stone studied me, recognizing the steel beneath my request. EMTs treat Marshal Thompson here. Security, no one enters or leaves. Mr. Calabresi, you have 5 minutes to complete your cross. Calabresi looked shaken but rallied. Marshal Bellini, someone just tried to kill you. Why? Because I know the truth about your client's drug empire. Or because you know too much about something else. Tell me who benefits if you die. Marcus Torino, Rosa Torino. Anyone who profits from fentanyl killing kids. Or anyone whose secrets you might expose, like a corrupt federal agent, perhaps. He knew. Somehow, Calabresi knew about Fitzgerald, which meant Fitzgerald was playing both sides, feeding information everywhere to create maximum chaos. Are you suggesting law enforcement corruption, Counselor? I asked, carefully. I'm suggesting this case has more players than anyone admits, that my client is a convenient scapegoat while real corruption goes unpunished. Walsh stood. Objection, Counsel is testifying. An explosion rocked the building, not in the courtroom, somewhere below. The lights flickered, emergency alarms blared. Through the windows, smoke billowed from the courthouse's parking garage. Everyone remain calm. Stone commanded even as security radios crackled with reports of multiple breaches. Rodriguez burst through the secure door. We need to evacuate the witness, now. Fitzgerald's gone rogue. He's got a team hitting the courthouse. Like hell, I said. I'm finishing my testimony. Bellini, that's an order. With respect, sir, if I run now, they win. Every juror will think I have something to hide. The case dies. Judge Stone made the call. Seal the courtroom. U.S. Marshals secure all entrances. We continue. What followed was the strangest legal proceeding in Chicago history. As SWAT teams battled Fitzgerald's mercenaries 3 floors below, I testified about Marcus's crimes. Smoke drifted past windows while I detailed drug shipments. Distant gunfire punctuated my descriptions of money laundering. Did you see Marcus Torino personally handle narcotics? Calabrese asked, voice strained as an explosion shook the building. I saw him supervise transfers of pharmaceutical crates containing fentanyl. I have video evidence. The lights cut out. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. In that hellish glow, Marcus finally broke. Enough! He stood ignoring his lawyers, grabbing hands. You want truth, Roxanne, truth? Is you destroyed a beautiful thing. 3 generations of power, respect, control, gone because you couldn't accept your place. Mr. Torino, sit down, Stone commanded. We own this city, Marcus continued. Judges, cops, politicians, all ours. And you ungrateful bitch, you threw it away for what a badge, a pathetic need for Daddy's approval. I threw it away to save lives, I said steadily. Lives. Marcus laughed wildly. You know how many people will die in the power vacuum we leave. The cartels will slaughter each other for territory. The Russians will move in. The streets will run with blood, and it's your fault. No. I stood too, facing him across the chaos. It's your fault, yours and Rosa's. You chose crime. You chose murder. You chose to poison our family with greed and violence. We chose strength. We chose... A window shattered. A smoke grenade rolled across the floor, filling the room with thick gray clouds. In the confusion, I heard Rodriguez shouting orders, Mom screaming my name, the sharp crack of a judge's gavel trying to restore order to hell. When the smoke cleared, Marcus was on the floor, Calabrese restraining him. Blood ran from his nose. He'd tried to charge me and met a lawyer's fist instead. Your Honor. Walsh said, voice steady. Despite the insanity, the prosecution rests. Stone looked around her destroyed courtroom. Smoke damage, broken windows, blood on the floor, a defendant in restraints. This court is in recess until the building is secured. Marshals maintain custody of all parties. As they led Marcus away, he stared at me with pure hatred. This isn't over. The family remembers. The family always remembers. The family is finished, I replied. But even as I said it, watching Thompson loaded onto a gurney, hearing reports of dead officers below, I wondered if anything was ever truly finished. Rosa had warned me. Cut off, one head too, grow back. In the secured witness room afterward, Rodriguez delivered the news. Fitzgerald's dead. Chose suicide over capture. But his team got away with something from evidence lockup. What did they take? The Torino financial records, all of them, physical and digital copies. He looked exhausted. Without those, the money laundering charges get harder to prove. But we have testimony from a paranoid marshal and an unstable cousin. Calabrese shredded credibility like it was his job, which I guess it was. Chen entered, face grim. It gets worse. Rosa Torino was just diagnosed with terminal cancer. 6 months to live, maybe less. She's petitioning for compassionate release. The hits kept coming. Our case was wounded, our evidence compromised, our star witnesses discredited. And somewhere out there, Fitzgerald's mercenaries had the Torino financial records, either to destroy them or sell them back to Rosa. So what do we do? I asked. Rodriguez smiled grimly. We do what cops do. We adapt. We survive. We find another way. Because you were right about one thing, Bellini. This isn't over. Through the broken courthouse windows, Chicago sprawled before us, unaware that its underworld had just shifted. The Torino Empire was wounded but not dead. New players would emerge from the shadows. The game would continue with different pieces. But so would we. Badge bent but not broken, purpose clear despite the smoke. The family war had become a city war, and I was just getting started. The Chicago Tribune headline screamed across the morning edition, "Torino trial shooter identified as rogue federal agent." Below it, a smaller story, "Key evidence missing in mob trial." 3 weeks after the courthouse attack, our case was hemorrhaging credibility. I stood in Rosa's restaurant, now a crime scene draped in yellow tape, watching FBI techs process every inch. We'd gotten a tip that the stolen financial records were hidden here, but after 12 hours of searching, we'd found nothing but old sauce stains and family photos. Bellini. Agent Chen approached holding an evidence bag. "You need to see this." Inside was a photo I'd never seen before me at 8 years old, sitting on Rosa's lap, both of us smiling at the camera. On the back in Rosa's handwriting, "My chosen successor, blood of my blood. She will understand one day." Where was this? Hidden behind the industrial freezer, along with these. Chen produced more photos. Me at various ages, always with Rosa, always during moments I'd forgotten. Birthday parties, Christmas dinners, quiet afternoons in the kitchen. "She was documenting me," I whispered, disturbed. "All these years she was watching, planning. Planning what you became, a federal agent." Maybe that was part of it. Maybe she knew I'd never join willingly, so she waited for me to gain skills she could use later. My phone rang. Unknown number, but by now I recognized the pattern. "Hello, Rosa." "My dear granddaughter, are you enjoying your tour of my restaurant, finding anything interesting?" "Games within games, right? You knew we'd search here." "I knew you would search there. The others are just badges. Your blood. You think like me even when you fight it." She coughed wetly, the cancer making itself known. "Have you found my gift yet?" "What gift?" "Check the wine cellar, 1947 Barolo bottom shelf. Your grandfather proposed to me the night we drank its twin." I descended into the cellar, Chen following with weapon drawn. The bottle sat dust-covered among dozens of others. Inside its false bottom, a flash drive. "Careful," Chen warned. "Could be malware." But I knew Rosa better. This wasn't destruction. This was temptation. We took it to a secure facility, opened it on an air-gapped system. Financial records spilled across the screen, but not just Torino accounts. These were records of every bribe, every payoff, every corrupt official in Chicago for 40 years. "Holy shit," Chen breathed. This is everyone. Judges, cops, politicians, businessmen. She kept records on the entire city's corruption. Her insurance policy, I understood. Mutually assured destruction if anyone moved against her. But why give it to us now? The answer came in a video file recorded recently in Rosa's cell. She looked smaller, in orange cancer eating away at her empire of flesh, but her eyes remained sharp. "Roxanne," her recorded voice began, "by now you've found my legacy. 40 years of secrets of knowing which pillars of society were actually termites. You face a choice. Expose it all. Watch Chicago tear itself apart as hundreds of investigations bloom. Or use it wisely, selectively, becoming the power behind the throne." She leaned toward the camera. "You think you chose justice over family, no cara mia. You chose to remake the family in your image. Every criminal you arrest creates a vacuum. Someone fills it. Why not someone you control? Why not build a better empire on the bones of mine?" "She's insane," Chen said. But I heard the seductive logic. How many criminals had we arrested only to watch worse ones take their place? How many times had we played by the rules while corruption flourished? With Rosa's files, we could perform surgery on Chicago's underworld instead of amputation. "There's more," Rosa continued. "Marcus knows about the files, others too. They'll come for them for you, unless you make deals, unless you become what I trained you to be, a queen who rules from shadows." The video ended. Chen and I stared at the treasure trove of corruption, both understanding its terrible power. We have to turn this over to DOJ, Chen said, but even she sounded uncertain. Dewey Fitzgerald was DOJ. How many others in these files still wear badges if we dump this publicly? Chicago burns. Hundreds of cases get overturned. Thousands of criminals walk free. So we bury it, pretend we never found it. Or we use it strategically, one corrupt official at a time, surgical strikes instead of carpet bombing. Chen studied me. You're actually considering her offer, becoming the new Rosa. No, but I'm considering reality. This information exists. Pretending it doesn't won't make it disappear. Someone will use it. Why not someone trying to do good? Before she could respond, my phone rang. Rodriguez. Bellini, we have a situation. Bradley Torino's been taken from protective custody. Professional grab team. Thomas is hysterical. When? 20 minutes ago. They left a message, Rosa's files, for Bradley's life. The choice was being made for us. I looked at Chen. Still think we should turn it over to DOJ, let Bradley die while bureaucracy processes. Her jaw tightened. What do you have in mind? What I had in mind would have horrified me 6 months ago. But 6 months ago, I believed in clean lines between good and evil. Now I understood Rosa's final lesson. Power doesn't vanish. It only changes hands. First we save Bradley, then we decide who burns. An hour later, I sat in a diner booth across from Vincent Calabresi. The mob lawyer looked uncomfortable outside his courtroom kingdom. Thank you for meeting me, I said. You said it concerned my client's safety, though why I should trust the woman trying to imprison him? Because your client's son has been kidnapped by competitors who want Rosa's files, and you're going to help me get him back. Calabresi laughed. Why would I do that? I slid a single page across the table. His name, his accounts, his bribes documented in Rosa's careful handwriting. His face went pale. Jesus Christ. Wrong savior. I have 40 years of these. Every dirty lawyer, including you. Help me save Bradley or I burn your entire network. This is blackmail. You're supposed to be a federal agent. I am a federal agent. One who's learned that sometimes saving lives requires getting dirty. I leaned forward. Your client's son will die unless we act. You can help or you can explain to Marcus why you let his boy get tortured because you were too proud to work with a cop. Calabresi's hands shook slightly. What do you need? Information. Who grabbed Bradley? Where would they take him? He was silent for a long moment, calculating odds. Then, the Kozlov brothers, Russian outfit trying to move into Torino territory. They have a warehouse in Cicero, use it for interrogations. Guards security. Maybe a dozen men, ex-military mostly. He met my eyes. If I help you, if Bradley lives what happens to that page, it disappears. But I keep the copies and you keep your mouth shut about Rosa's files. You're becoming her, he said wonderingly. Rosa. She'd be so proud. Rosa's dying in a cell. I'm trying to save lives. Don't confuse the two. But even I heard the hollow ring of my words. 2 hours later, I stood outside the Cicero warehouse with a mixed team, FBI SWAT U.S. Marshals and 2 dirty cops Chen had convinced to help using Rosa's files. The irony wasn't lost on me using corruption to fight corruption. Thermal imaging shows 15 hostiles, the team leader reported. 1 heat signature in the basement stationery, probably Bradley. Alive. For now. I made the call. We go in hard and fast. Priority is the hostage. Rules of engagement. Anyone threatens Bradley dies. Bit bloodthirsty for a federal op, someone muttered. Anyone have a problem with that? I asked, hand resting on my weapon. No one did. Rosa's files had given me leverage over half the team. The other half was loyal to Rodriguez, who'd made clear that Bradley came home alive or heads would roll. Execute. The entry was violence incarnate. Flashbangs breaching charges, automatic weapons fire. The Russians fought hard, but we fought harder, driven by desperation and dark necessity. I found Bradley in the basement tied to a chair, beaten but breathing. One guard remained gunned to Bradley's head. "Drop the weapon," I commanded in Russian, another gift from Rosa, who'd insisted her grandchildren learn the languages of potential enemies. "You drop yours," he replied, "or pretty boy dies." Time for negotiation was over. I shot him in the shoulder, spinning him away from Bradley. As he fell, I kicked his weapon clear and cuffed him to a pipe. "Roxanne." Bradley's voice was weak, scared. "They wanted the files." "I know. You're safe now." I cut his restraints, supporting him as he sagged forward. "Can you walk?" Did you give them the files?" "No, but I used them, just like Rosa would have." He looked at me with swollen eyes. "She wins either way, doesn't she? Even dying, even imprisoned, she wins." I helped him toward the stairs, stepping over Russian bodies. "No, she doesn't win. We just use her weapons against her world." "Is there a difference anymore?" I couldn't answer, because increasingly I wasn't sure there was. The warehouse was secure when we emerged. 14 Russians in custody or dead Bradley alive mission successful. But the victory felt hollow. I'd blackmailed a lawyer, leveraged dirty cops, and killed without hesitation. All justified, all necessary, all exactly what Rosa would have done. Bellini. Chen pulled me aside as EMTs treated Bradley. "This can't continue. Rosa's files are too dangerous. You're too close to this." "You're right," I admitted, "which is why I'm giving them to you. All of them. Make the choice I can't. Burn them, use them, whatever. Just keep me away from them." She studied me carefully. "You sure this kind of power is exactly what Rosa wanted me to have, which is why I can't keep it." I handed her the flash drive. "I've already crossed too many lines. Don't let me cross the last one. And if someone else gets kidnapped, if we need leverage, then you make the call, not me. I'll testify against Marcus, finish what I started. But Rosa's legacy dies with you." Chen took the drive, understanding the weight of what I was giving her. "For what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice." "Rosa wouldn't." "Which is why you're not her. Despite everything, you're not her." As Bradley was loaded into an ambulance, Thomas at his side, I stood in the Chicago night, feeling the city's pulse around me. Somewhere, Rosa sat in her cell, probably smiling, knowing she'd pushed me to the edge, knowing I'd used her methods, her leverage, her corruption to save a life. But I'd also walked away, given up the power she'd tried to bestow. That had to count for something. My phone buzzed. "Rodriguez. Outstanding work. Bradley's safe, but we need to talk about your methods." "Yes, sir," I typed back. "We do." The war between law and crime had blurred tonight. I'd won by becoming what I fought against, saved a life by threatening others. Rosa's greatest victory and greatest defeat wrapped in one bloody warehouse raid. Tomorrow I'd face questions, investigations, consequences. But tonight Bradley was alive, and that was enough. The family disappointment had saved the family heir using the family's own methods. Rosa would be proud, which is why I felt sick, but alive. Bradley was alive. Sometimes in the gray between black and white, that's all that matters. The secure conference room at the Dirksen Federal Building felt like a fortress under siege. 6 weeks until Marcus's trial resumed, and our case was held together with legal tape and prayer. I sat across from Prosecutor Jennifer Walsh, who looked like she'd aged 5 years in 2 months. "We've lost 30% of our physical evidence," she said, sliding a report across the table. "Fitzgerald's team was thorough. Financial records, wiretaps, even some of the drug samples from the warehouse raids. But we still have testimony," I insisted. "Bradley, me, the other witnesses. Testimony from a marshal who used blackmail and excessive force to save a witness." She interrupted. "Calabrese filed a complaint, says you threatened him with illegally obtained documents to save Bradley's life." "I know, and off the record I'm glad you did. But on the record, you gave the defense ammunition. They'll paint you as a rogue agent willing to do anything for a conviction." Rodriguez entered carrying coffee and bad news. "It gets worse. 3 of our protected witnesses have recanted. say they were coerced, threatened by overzealous agents. Let me guess, they got visits from lawyers carrying Rosa's files. Most likely, Chen's team is trying to trace who accessed them, but he shrugged helplessly. Once information exists, controlling it is like holding water. I stared at my untouched coffee, processing our situation. We'd won battles, but were losing the war. Every victory came with a cost that weakened our position. There's another option, Walsh said quietly. Marcus's lawyer reached out. Unofficial channels. They're willing to deal. No. The word came out harder than intended. 3 years undercover Thompson getting shot, Bradley tortured. We don't make deals. Hear me out. Marcus pleads to money laundering, 20-year sentence. Testifies against Rosa and the others. We get convictions across the board without risking trial. 20 years. I stood, anger flooding through me. He murdered people. Poisoned communities. 20 years is a slap on the wrist. It's better than acquittal, Rodriguez said gently. If this goes to trial with compromised evidence and discredited witnesses, we could lose everything, Walsh finished. Marcus walks, Rosa gets compassionate release, the entire organization rebuilds. Is that justice? I paced to the window, looking out at Chicago's skyline. Somewhere out there, families grieved children lost to Torino fentanyl. They deserved better than deals and compromises. What does Bradley say? I asked. He's struggling. The kidnapping broke something in him. Thomas says he wakes up screaming, begging his father not to hurt him. Rodriguez's voice carried pain. He'll testify if we need him, but the defense will destroy him on the stand. And my parents? Your mother's strong, ready to testify about the documents she collected. Your father? Walsh hesitated. He's been drinking. Blames himself for not seeing what his company was used for. He'll hold up, but barely. Every witness scarred, every family member breaking. Rosa's true victory, destroying us from within even as we destroyed her empire. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Meet me at Nana's kitchen. Come alone. We need to talk. Nowhere. Marcus, messaging from federal custody through some contraband phone. The audacity would have been admirable if it wasn't infuriating. I need to step out, I said. Rodriguez frowned. Everything okay? Family business, the other kind. I drove to Rosa's restaurant, now closed and empty. The key was where family always hid it, under a loose brick by the kitchen door. Inside, shadows filled spaces where laughter once lived. Marcus sat at our old family table wearing custody orange and shackles, somehow having arranged this illegal meeting. 2 guards stood by the door, more of Rosa's reach from behind bars. Niece, he said, gesturing to a chair, sit, we need to discuss terms. How about these terms? You rot in prison while I testify about every crime you committed. Ah, the righteousness of youth. Tell me, how's Bradley recovering from his ordeal? My hand moved toward my weapon before I caught myself. You arranged his kidnapping. I arranged nothing. I've been in custody, remember? He smiled coldly. But others acted on anticipated wishes. Such loyalty our family inspires even in chains. What do you want, Marcus? To save you from yourself. Look at what you've become. Threatening lawyers, killing Russians, using our mother's files like a weapon. You're more Torino now than ever. I'm nothing like you. No, you crossed every line you swore to hold, used corruption to fight corruption, became the monster to defeat the monster. He leaned forward. The only difference between us is that I'm honest about what I am. You're a drug dealer who hides behind a law degree. And you're a cop who hides behind a badge while doing what's necessary. We're both pragmatists, Roxanne, both willing to break rules for our version of greater good. I stood to leave, but his next words stopped me. 20 years, and I testify against everyone, including the people Rosa's files can't touch, the ones smart enough to never write anything down. You'd betray your own mother. My mother betrayed me first. Let me rot here while planning succession that doesn't include me. Bitterness crept into his voice. Did you know she was grooming Bradley to take over my own son turned against me before you ever arrived? Bradley has integrity. She saw that. Bradley has weakness she could exploit, just like she exploited yours, that desperate need to belong to matter to prove the dropout could become something. He studied me. We're all her victims, Roxanne, even her champions. So you'll testify out of spite. I'll testify for survival. 20 years with good behavior means 12. I'll be out before I'm 70 with enough hidden money to disappear forever. His chains rattled as he spread his hands. Or we go to trial, I walk on technicalities and spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder for whoever wants the throne. You're afraid. I'm practical. Rosa's dying, the empire's crumbling, and the vultures are circling. Better a cell than a shallow grave. I sat back down processing this shift. Marcus, the arrogant, becoming Marcus, the survivor. What makes you think Walsh will deal? Because she's practical too, and because I have something she needs. Names, dates, and details that only exist in my head. The full network, including cops and politicians, Rosa never wrote down. Why tell me why not negotiate directly? Because despite everything, you're still family, and because I need you to sell it to Bradley. He won't testify if he thinks I'm getting away with it. But if you explain the reality, you want me to convince your son to let you plea down. I want you to convince him that justice comes in many forms, that 12 years of my life is payment enough for the harm done. He met my eyes. And I want you to promise that when I get out, you'll let me disappear. No hunting, no revenge, just done. The old Marcus would never have asked, never have shown vulnerability. Prison and betrayal had broken something in him, too. I'll think about it, I said finally. Think fast. This offer expires when trial starts. After that, it's war, and we both know how ugly that could get. I left him there, shackled to our family's history. Outside, Chicago's wind-cut cold carrying the smell of coming snow. Another winter approaching another season of change. Back at the federal building, I found Bradley in the witness room with Thomas. He looked fragile, hollowed out by trauma. Your father wants to deal, I told him straight. 20 years full cooperation. Walsh is considering it. Bradley laughed bitterly. Let me guess. He wants my blessing. Wants me to forgive and forget so he can sleep better in minimum security. He wants to survive, and honestly, it might be our best option. Our best option is watching him die in prison. Our best option is convictions that stick. Your grandmother still has reach. The evidence is compromised. If we go to trial and lose, then we lose. Bradley gripped Thomas's hand. But at least we fought. At least we didn't compromise with evil. Like I compromised to save you. The words came out sharper than intended. Like I became what I hated to keep you alive. Silence fell heavy between us. Thomas spoke first. Bradley, maybe we should listen. If Marcus testifies, others go down too. The network collapses. The network's already collapsing. This is just about minimizing damage. Bradley turned to me. You know what the hardest part is? Part of me still loves him. The father who taught me to ride a bike, who read me stories, who I wanted so desperately to please. That man existed alongside the monster, and I can't separate them. You don't have to, I said gently. You just have to decide if 20 years is enough justice for your pain. It's not. Nothing will be. He closed his eyes. But I'm so tired, Roxanne. Tired of being afraid, tired of fighting, tired of carrying this weight. If taking the deal ends it, then we take it, Thomas said firmly. We take it and move on and build a life without them. I thought of my own exhaustion, the weight of 3 years under cover of violence done in justice's name, of becoming what I'd sworn to fight. Maybe Marcus was right. We were all pragmatists now, all willing to compromise for survival. I'll tell Walsh, I said, if you're sure. I'm sure I want this over, Bradley replied. Whether that's the same as justice, I don't know anymore. None of us did. Justice had become a fluid concept shaped by necessity and survival rather than rigid principle. But fluid justice was better than no justice, and sometimes that had to be enough. That night, I met with Walsh and Rodriguez to discuss the deal. Terms were negotiated, conditions set, compromises made. Marcus would allocute to specific crimes, testify against co-conspirators, forfeit hidden assets. In exchange, 20 years in medium security with protective custody. The judge has to approve, Walsh warned. Stone might reject it as too lenient. Or she might recognize it as the best we can do with what we have, Rodriguez countered. Either way, we present it tomorrow. As they debated legal strategies, I thought about Rosa in her cell dying slowly while her empire negotiated its survival. She'd built something that outlasted her corrupted everyone it touched and forced us all to become versions of ourselves we never wanted to be. The family disappointment had become the family negotiator, broker of compromises, and dealer in gray areas. Not the victory I'd imagined, but the victory available. Tomorrow we'd present the deal to a judge. Marcus would admit guilt, accept punishment, and betray the mother who'd made him. The Torino crime family would officially end, not with bang, but with paperwork, not with justice, but with jurisprudence. And I'd go home to my small apartment, pour a large drink, and try to remember who I'd been before this all started. Try to find that idealistic girl who'd reported corruption, believing the system would protect her. She was gone, replaced by someone harder, smarter,